All who have joined us online from various parts of the country. This is Dr. Sujit Kolangat, and I welcome you to the inaugural session of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, Week 12, hosted by Balasaheb Thackeray, Gorewada International Zoological Park, Nagpur, in collaboration with Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, Department of Forest, Government of Maharashtra, Forest Development Corporation of Maharashtra Limited, Nagpur, Central Zoo Authority, New Delhi, Maharashtra Animal and Fisheries Sciences University, Nagpur, and Save Us Mumbai. To commemorate the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebration, an effort to bring all stakeholders on one platform has been undertaken through a virtual inauguration session. For the inauguration session, we have been graced by a number of dignitaries and guests. Honorable Managing Director FDCM Limited Nagpur, Shri N. Vasudevan Sir, Honorable PCCF Wildlife and Chief Wildlife Warden Maharashtra State, Shri N.H. Kakodkar Sir, Honorable Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority, New Delhi, Dr. S.P. Yadav Sir, who has joined us online from New Delhi. We also have Honorable Vice Chancellor, Maharashtra Animal and Fisheries Sciences University, Colonel Dr. Professor A.M. Paturkar Sir, Honorable Chief General Manager Planning, FDCM Nagpur, Shri Sanjeev Gaur Sir, Honorable General Manager, FDCM Nagpur Region Nagpur, Shri Rishikesh Ranjan Sir, Honorable DIGF CAZA New Delhi, Dr. Sonali Ghosh, who has joined us online, Honorable Director, Wildlife Research and Training Center, Gorewada Nagpur, Dr. Shirish Upadhyay, and Divisional Manager, Gorewada Project, Shri P.B. Panchbhai. On behalf of the organizers, I welcome all the dignitaries. It is our honor and privilege to have you all here. Honorable Prime Minister of India has flagged off Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav on 12th March 2021 to commemorate 75 years of India's independence in the coming year 2022. Under this initiative, Central Zoo Authority, New Delhi, has decided to organize a massive outreach program entitled Conservation to Coexistence, The People Connect. In this initiative, 75 zoos have been identified by CZA to carry out a week-long awareness program regarding the native species of India. Nagpur is a synonym to tigers. The landscape has always been a warm home to the majestic felids. But for Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park, Nagpur could not be a better place to conduct an outreach program on tigers. Under the current situation of pandemic COVID-19, the organizers extend their heartfelt condolences to the grieving families. We stand in solidarity with our countrymen and their families who have been affected by the pandemic. Keeping in mind the rich and varied heritage of our country, we now like to felicitate our guests for their valuable presence at the inaugural session. At the outset, I request Dr. Shirish Upadhyay, Director, Wildlife Research and Training Center, Nagpur, to felicitate and welcome Honorable Managing Director, FDCM Limited, Nagpur, Shri N. Vasudevan Sir. I request MD Sir to accept the felicitation, please. Thank you, sir. We have the honor of having Honorable PCCF Wildlife and Chief Wildlife Warden Maharashtra State, Shri N.H. Kakodkar Sir, in our midst. I request Dr. Vinod Dhoot, Deputy Director, Wildlife Research and Training Center, Nagpur, to please felicitate Honorable PCCF, sir. Thank you, sir. We have been joined by Honorable Member Secretary, CZA New Delhi, Dr. S.P. Yadav, sir, online from New Delhi. I take this opportunity to welcome him virtually. Thank you, sir, for your precious presence. It is indeed a great motivation to have you here. We have designed a small memento which we would like to display now. Can the technical team please display the memento? Sir, thank you for being present here. We welcome you, sir. We are extremely happy to have Honorable Vice Chancellor, Maharashtra Animal and Fisheries Sciences University, Colonel Dr. Professor A.M. Paturkar, sir, as the guest of honor for this inaugural session. I request Shri P.B. Panchbhai, Divisional Manager, Gorewada Project, Nagpur, to felicitate Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Thank you, sir. It is an honor to also have Honorable Chief General Manager, Planning, FDCM Limited, Nagpur, Shri Sanjeev Gaur, sir. I request Shri H.V. Madbushi, sir, ACF Gorewada Rescue Center, to felicitate CGM, sir. Thank you, sir. We have also been graced by Honorable General Manager, FDCM Nagpur Region, Nagpur, Shri Rishikesh Ranjan, sir. I request Shri P.S. Pakle, Range Forest Officer, Gorewada Project, Nagpur, to felicitate GM, sir. Thank you, sir. We also have Dr. Sonali Ghosh, DGIF, CZA, New Delhi, who has joined us online from New Delhi. On behalf of the organizers, I welcome you, ma'am, and it's an honor to have you here. To felicitate you, we have a small memento specially designed, so we're sharing it with you. And thank you, ma'am, for being here on this occasion.
Thank you. Thank you.
We also have Dr. Shirish Upadhyay, Director, Wildlife Research and Training Center, Nagpur. I request Sri P.B. Panchbhai, Divisional Manager, Gorewada Project, Nagpur, to felicitate Director, sir. Thank you, sir. Finally, I request Sri Nilay Bhoge, RFO, Gorewada Project, Nagpur, to felicitate Sri P.B. Panchbhai, Divisional Manager, Gorewada Project, Nagpur. Thank you, sir. With this, we conclude the felicitation of dignitaries. To begin with the proceedings for the day, I now request Honorable General Manager, FDCM, Nagpur Region, Nagpur, Shri Rishikesh Ranjan, sir, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you. Honorable Managing Director, Sri Vasudevan Saab, Honorable PCCF Wildlife, Sri Nitin Saab, Honorable Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority, Dr. S.P. Yadav Saab, Honorable Vice Chancellor, MAPSU, Colonel Dr. Professor A.M. Paturkar Saab, Honorable Chief General Manager, Planning, FDCM, Nagpur, Sri Sanjeev Gaur Saab, Director, WRTC Gorewada, Sri Shirish Upadhyay, Zoo Director Sri Panchbhai, my dear colleagues, participants and friends. I am extremely delighted to be present here for the introductory address. It is a matter of pride for Forest Development Corporation of Maharashtra and Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park, Nagpur, to host an outreach initiative on tigers. Nagpur has been historically known as Gateway to Tiger Reserves. Its strategic location in central India and proximity to 6 tiger reserves of central India justifies the tag. Tigers have been a flagship species for conservation efforts right from early 1970s. Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi, has flagged off Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav on 12th March to commemorate 75 years of India's independence. The CJD New Delhi has initiated a massive public outreach program involving the constituent Jews throughout the country. The initiative aims to conduct extensive outreach program through community participation for highlighting the importance of native wild species of birds and animals in the ecosystem. I thank CJD New Delhi for giving us this opportunity to be part of this venture. Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park, Nagpur, was established by the government of Maharashtra to encourage wildlife and ecotourism in the region. The zoo was formally inaugurated at the auspicious hand of Honorable Chief Minister Maharashtra State Sri Uddhavji Thackeray on 26 January 2021. With a modest beginning a year ago, the zoo has decided to participate in the public outreach program highlighting tigers. In the allotted slot from 31st May to 6th June, an array of activities involving children, students, and general public has been planned, along with collaborating partners like Maharashtra Forest Department, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Central Zoo Authority of India, Maharashtra Animal and Fisheries Sciences University Nagpur, Save Us Mumbai. Due to ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, all the programs are being conducted online. There is a need to strengthen the outreach initiatives to educate and sensitize the general public because tigers is not just a number, but an iconic species with ecological, cultural, and aesthetic values deeply connected with our rich culture and heritage. Conservation is no single man cause. Collaborative efforts from all stakeholders, including the general public and professionals engaged in conservation, is the only way forward. This initiative resolves to unite all minds who wish to work in unison to achieve the goal of conservation through coexistence. We are hopeful that with the support of all involved in the organization of the week-long celebration, the program will meet its objective. I extend my sincere best wishes for the success of the program. I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be part of this great initiative. Thank you, Jai.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. I now would request Honorable Managing Director, FDCM Limited, Nagpur, Shri N. Vasudevan sir, to deliver his address on the occasion of the inaugural session, please.
Thank you. A very good morning to all of you. Mr. Nitin Kakodkar, who is my colleague in Forest Department, Chief Conservator and Chief Wildlife Warden. Dr. A.M. Paturkar, Vice Chancellor of Nagpur, President of that institution, has been giving us a lot of support in running that Wildlife Rescue Center and the Gorewada Zoo. And Sanjeev Gaur, who is my colleague in FDCM, and Rishikesh Nanjan, my colleague in FDCM, and Mr. Shirish Upadhyay, Director, WRCT, punched by Divisional Manager. Sorry, I missed out Dr. S.P. Yadav, who is the brain behind this exercise. And he has been pioneering a lot of activities in his capacity as both Member Secretary of CZA and NTCA and as ADG Project Tiger. So we have assembled here to flag off the week's program to commemorate the 75th year of independence. In connection with that, we are organizing this this program for the week starting from today. And this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is a very important occasion because it not only marks the 70th anniversary of the country's independence, but also flags off a number of programs in various sectors. We are glad that CZA has taken the initiative to include wildlife conservation and zoo management as a very important component of this program. And I think even in these difficult times, they have tried to organize this massive outreach program through online mode. And the focus is on more than 75 animal species. And we are glad and we are also pleased and privileged to be part of this program. And tiger being the apex predator and one of the most charismatic animals in the Indian landscape. I think it is a great pleasure for us to be part of this and to host these events connected with the Azadi Mahotsav, focusing on tiger. And Nagpur has been known as the tiger capital of the country for a long time. It is also the gateway to so many sanctuaries, national parks, and tiger reserves, including those in Maharashtra and those in Chhattisgarh. So it is very fitting that this venue has been chosen. Although Gorewada Zoological Park, which is named as Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park now, was recently inaugurated only on January 26th this year by the Honorable Chief Minister of Maharashtra. And it is one of the latest entrants into the zoo landscape of the country. Even then, CZA has chosen this zoo as the venue for the program focusing on tiger. And it also speaks about the potential of the zoo and the way we plan to take this zoo forward. Because we don't look at zoo as just an assemblage of caged animals. We have to give it a conservation value. And zoo should also act as a center for outreach and education and learning and awareness generation, capacity building. So that is the more comprehensive role that we are looking at for a zoo. And in that context, the planning of Gorewada Zoo has been, in a what do you call, in a state-of-the-art manner. I mean, it will be developed in a more in tune with the best zoos in the entire world. So this world-class zoo is, it's in the nascent stages, but it will eventually develop into a zoo which will definitely, be one of the best, at least in this country. And we will measure up to the world-class zoos. But then, as a center of learning and education and awareness and outreach, I think we have a long way to go. And I think this will be a great beginning with this week, the various programs that we have organized. Many of them are online. We have 2 webinars starting today, one is on saving tigers in human-dominated landscapes, and the second is on rescue and rehabilitation of large felids. And we have also organized a photography competition, which will be inaugurated today. And we have some poster making and debating competitions coming up on 5th June to commemorate the World Environment Day. So a series of programs and webinars and talks by some of the most distinguished experts in this field are all organized, and I think it will be a great, educational opportunity, learning opportunity for many of us. We are looking forward to the activities in the entire week. It's fully packed, and I can imagine now when you have only one species here, and we are doing so many things in this 1 week, focusing on one species. You have Central Zoo Authority has planned similar activities across the country for more than 75 species. I think it is really a massive effort, and I should congratulate Dr. S.P. Yadav and his team for doing this unprecedented scale of outreach, even in this difficult times. And that is the that speaks volumes about the creativity and innovativeness that Dr. Yadav has brought into the Central Zoo Authority. And it is not just a licensing authority to give permissions to the zoos. It is much more than that, and it is as a guiding force at the center, and as a driving force. I think they are playing a great role in managing these very innovative activities. FDCM has great pleasure in being part of this. We have about more than 3 lakh hectares of forest land which are assigned to us. And many of these forest areas also harbor rich wildlife. And over a period of time, a lot of areas have been converted into wildlife sanctuaries and national parks and tiger reserves. That itself shows how well these forests are managed and how they have become a great habitat for wildlife in due course, and they have qualified now to become sanctuaries and national parks. So this gives us a great sense of pride that we are not only interested in the commercial aspects of forestry, but also in managing our natural resources very well. And we are also very greatly indebted to the Chief Wildlife Warden and his entire team of wildlife wing for supporting us in not only the Gorewada Zoo management, the Wildlife Rescue Center, and also in managing the occasional man-animal conflict issues in different parts of FDCM areas. But we are equally indebted to the MAFU, which is represented by his Vice Chancellor and Dr. Shirish Upadhyay and his team here. They have been doing an excellent job at the Wildlife Rescue Center, and not only helping the zoo in managing the health of the animals there, but also this is catering to a large number of cases of accidents and casualties happening all along and across Vidarbha, and the animals are brought from different parts for treatment. And this team has really innovated the way treatment is done to wild animals, and that is also probably indirectly helping the treatment of domestic animals in a sense. That's a great collaboration that we are seeing between Forest Department and a university, which has never taken place before. So I am really grateful to MASU also for this wonderful cooperation, which they have been extending wholeheartedly for a long time, and we look forward to a lot of activities in the future. And it is great that all these organizations are coming together: FDCM, the Wildlife Wing, MASU, the Central Zoo Authority. So they are all coming together to spread this message of conservation across the country. And this is a great occasion for all of us to rejoice in the 75th anniversary of country's independence. At the same time, spread the very important message of conservation to the public of to the people of India. So thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me for this, and we look forward to all the multiplicity of activities that we are going to see in the next few weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful message. We have the honor to host Honorable PCCF Wildlife and Chief Wildlife Warden, Maharashtra State, Shri N.H. Kakodkar, sir. I now invite him to express his views on the occasion, please.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this inaugural function of what is going to be a big week and a precursor to the World Environment Day. So my colleagues here, Mr. N. Vasudevan, then Honorable Professor Paturkar sir, my other colleagues from the Forest Department, Sanjeev Gaur, Rishikesh Ranjan, SP Yadav Saab, Mrs. Ghosh from New Delhi, who have kindly consented to join. All the other dignitaries, then we have Mr. Kundan Hate, who is also State Board of Wildlife member of Maharashtra. And then we have a lot of officers from the field and other dignitaries who have joined. So a very warm welcome to all of you on this occasion. It is indeed a great pleasure to be part of this whole program, because if you go through the entire week's program, then you would see that it is virtually the who's who of tigers in the whole country that are going to be speaking to all of you through the week in the form of various seminars and other activities. So I suppose many of you who have joined today and many, many more would be joining and taking advantage of the knowledge that is going to be shared, and along with the knowledge, the experience sharing, which will also come from the field, which will help us in maybe laying a road for how to go forward in terms of tiger conservation. This year's theme for the World Environment Day is Tigers as Flag Bearers for Ecological Restoration. And it is apt that the week preceding the World Environment Day is going to focus on tigers during this whole week. As we all know that right now, of course, we have a fairly good population of tigers, which is nearly 3,000 or 2,967 to be precise, as per the 2018 count. And we are certainly done very good work in most of the states. Maharashtra itself has done excellent work, and Maharashtra also now accounts for a fairly good number of tigers, nearly 10% of the whole population of the country. We had 312 as per the 2018 estimation exercise, and I'm sure that that number must have gone way ahead. And as we face or the challenges which are also posed because of this population. The other good thing about this whole program organized as part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is that we are going to talk about conservation to coexistence. The people connect. I suppose in today's circumstances, especially in places like maybe Uttarakhand or places like Maharashtra, more so in areas like the Chandrapur district and the surrounding areas, we have a very major problem of human tiger conflict. And that is, if I give you some statistics, out of the 312 tigers that were estimated in Chandrapur district, I am sure today the number in that district is more than half. That is, we nearly have 200 tigers now in Chandrapur district. So we of course have as many tigers in the territorial areas or areas outside the Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve as we have within the Tiger Reserve. So that is the kind of conflict that issues that we are facing in that district, and this needs to be addressed at all levels. It is being addressed. The NTCA has also taken note of it. The state government has taken note of it, and we are in the process of planning a lot of mitigation measures to take care of this population, which has really grown in in that particular district. But fortunately, we also have some spillovers, and if we see the corridor connectivity, it shows a very good dispersal from that area, both northwards towards the Umred Karandla Pawnee Karandla Sanctuary, as well as further north to Navegaon Nagzira. And then if we go westwards, then from Bor into Melghat Tiger Reserve. And if we go southwestwards, then towards Tipeshwar and then into Kaval Tiger Reserve, which is across the border in Telangana. So we have this dispersal which is taking place naturally. We need to aid this dispersal, how we can hasten this dispersal, or how we can take care of the animals which are dispersing and minimize the conflict issues that arise when the subadult dispersal, subadult to adult dispersal starts and takes place. We have, as you know, in the state, we've had a record distance dispersal, which wherein a tiger from Tipeshwar went all the way to Ajanta Ellora area and then settled down into Nyanganga sanctuary, traversing about nearly more than 2,000 kilometers on the way. Of course, back and forth, but then that is the kind of dispersal that is happening. We also have records of now tigers regularly moving into the Umred Pauni Karanla sanctuary from Tadoba and then southwards. In that sense, the state government has taken some proactive measures. One of them being that we've identified some stepping stones, and one of the stepping stone which is identified is the Kanargaon sanctuary, which was recently notified. So about 267 square kilometers of area has been notified as a sanctuary, and I'm sure that that is going to aid the dispersal of tigers from Tadoba and surrounds into through Kanargaon into Telangana, which is going to which has already has a Kaval Tiger Reserve, which also has a Pranhita sanctuary across the border. We also have a Pranhita sanctuary within Maharashtra. But then there are certain now I should say that we've been taking many of the areas which were earlier earmarked for Forest Development Corporation, and it becomes difficult when the corporation has to operate as to how do we compensate for the management usufructs or management products that have come along the way, and now they are going to be the areas are going to be taken over by us. But then it is a question of the national priorities which do matter, and since the tiger is being even the at the highest level, we are saying that tiger conservation is not a choice but an imperative, as stated by the Honorable Prime Minister of the country. We also have a lot of support from our own Chief Minister, Mr. Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, who has been in the forefront of anything to do with conservation of wildlife. He has always been supportive, whether it is stopping certain projects which come into, whether it is a coal mine or whether it is conversion of meter gauge into broad gauge. So he has been very supportive, and the government has been supportive. Now coming to some excellent work which is being done by the Wildlife Rescue Center as well as the Wildlife Research and Training Center, Gorewada. This is some work. I think we have a state-of-the-art facility. We have excellent support from MAPSU, and I'm very thankful to Dr. Professor A.M. Paturkar and Dr. Shirish Upadhyay, who is the director of the center. There are issues involved, that is, how do we compensate? Because right now the center is being managed partly through funding by the Forest Development Corporation, and it certainly is a non-commercial activity. So how do we compensate FDCM for this? It is something that needs to be looked into, maybe through CAMPA funds. Maybe I would appeal to Dr. Sonali Ghosh that maybe CZA could also chip in. The member secretary, fortunately, Mr. Yadav is also there. So how can CZA chip in into this, and whether they could extend some financial support to WRTC? Because if those of you who have visited WRCT, it certainly is one of the best centers in the country today, and we are very relieved, because whenever there are problem animals which are captured or which have to be constrained, then we have ready facility available with trained medical professionals, veterinarians, whom we can rely on and say, okay, we are sending this animal, please take care of that. And they have been doing an excellent job, and I'm really very grateful to them. I know that apart from being just a rescue center, they would like to progress much further as to exact the other mandate of the center is research, and that I think we need to develop. And we are in the process of making a state wildlife action plan, probably the first state in the country. Dr. Yadav may correct me if I am wrong. To have an independent state wildlife action plan. We are in the process of completing it, and there we have assigned a major role to WRTC in that action plan. Of course, it is not yet approved, it's only in the draft stage, but I am sure that it is going to see the light of the day. And if and when that happens, WRTC is going to have a very, very major role in terms of the entire not only rescue but treatment, health management of wildlife in the whole state, not only in Nagpur. So you are going to have a lot of responsibility, and I'm sure that with along with responsibility, it is going to help all the students of the university, and that will be it is right now also a great occasion for them, because they get experience to deal with wild felids, not only wild felids, but all the wild animals which turn up at the rescue center. So we are doing capacity building of sorts, which may again be one of the best in the whole country, and that is what we have to aim at. So WRCT is going to get a very major role in future in terms of health management of the entire state in Maharashtra for the wildlife species which are concerned. So I'm very happy. If you go through the list of what has been lined up through the week, you, as I said in the beginning, you have the who's who in tiger management in the whole country. You have people like Dr. Rajesh Gopal who's going to address. You are going to have others. And the list is, we have Dr. Bilal Habib from the WII, who is one of the best. Then you are going to have Dr. Paragnagam. I suppose he is one of the best persons to talk about rescue and rehabilitation of large felids. And then today, of course, in the morning, you also have a session saving tigers in human-dominated landscape. Although Mr. Ramish Pandey is right now the director, National Zoological Park, but in the days that he has spent in the field, he has been in the forefront of the handling the human tiger or human leopard conflict in the field. Then we have wildlife forensics, which is again a very important issue, which is going to be discussed. And of course, Dr. Rajesh Gopal, as I told you earlier. And we also have in terms of health management, we have Dr. Booth, who has also gained a lot of experience in the last 15-20 years, and he's going to talk to you about that. And there are going to be sessions where there would be presentations by a lot of people. And in the chair and the co-chair, if you see, we have people like the additional director of WCCB, Mrs. Tilotama Verma, who is a very senior police officer. And then we also have participation from NTCA, Dr. Amit Malik, and we have the WCS country director, Dr. Vidya Atre, who is going to talk about rescue and rehabilitation. And she has a lot of experience in rescuing leopards in Western Maharashtra, which is a major issue there. And then we have session, even our own Dr. Ravi Kiran Goekar, who is going to talk about the actions, achievements, and challenges of conserving India's tiger. So if you see this whole program, Yadav Sahab is also going to have a special address along with Sunil Limay, who is the additional PCCF Wildlife West. So all in all, we are going to have a really great week ahead, and those who are really interested in tiger conservation or conservation of large felids, then I think nothing better than a program like this. I really thank the organizers, because to put together so many topics and then to get hold of so many experts who are going to address during this week is a big task. And I really congratulate all of you for having been able to do this. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Paturkar. Thank you, Mr. Vasudevan, who has been kind enough. And the Gorewada Zoo, of course, is doing right now not so well because of the COVID issues, but I'm sure that is also another thing which is state-of-the-art zoo that we have in the country, and it is going to, in the next few years, it is one place which is going to be on the must-visit site of everyone who comes to Central India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for those inspiring words. We have also been joined by Dr. Praveen Chavan, who is APCCF Protection, Maharashtra State. I request Dr. Mayur Paushe, WRTC, to felicitate him by giving him a bouquet, please. Thank you, sir, for joining us. It is an extreme privilege to have Honorable Vice Chancellor, Maharashtra Animal and Fisheries Sciences University, Colonel Dr. Professor A.M. Paturkar, sir, on the dais. I request Honorable Sir to express his views on the occasion.
Thank you very much. Good morning, one and all. I am audible. Managing Director FDCM, Nagpur, and Vasudevanji, PCCF Wildlife, Maharashtra State, Nagpur, Sri N.H. Kaparkarji, Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority of India, Dr. S.P. Yadavji, all the office bearers of FDCM and WRTC, all the stakeholders and members who have joined the program online and offline. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a matter of pride that Nagpur has bestowed the honor of organizing outreach program for conservation of tigers during Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. I congratulate the Central Zoo Authority of India, New Delhi, for such novel and innovative initiative during the ongoing pandemic COVID-19. I also would like to congratulate FDCM and Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park, Nagpur, for scaling up the efforts to highlight the importance of tigers in the ecosystem. Maharashtra Animal and Fisheries Sciences University is the seat of knowledge in veterinary and animal science in the state of Maharashtra. The university has not restricted its presence to domestic and production animals, but the university has signed a MOU with FDCM Limited, Nagpur, to contribute knowledge and services for the health of management and welfare of the wildlife. The Wildlife and Training Center, a joint venture institute, is a result of the MOU, and I am happy that the WRTC is playing a major role and contribution in wildlife conservation and has already made an impact in wildlife health management in the state. WRTC has also successfully organized an international conference, WildCon 2020, recently to share the experiences amongst the veterinarians across the globe. However, a lot is to be done. I am sure that with the association of university, FDCM, and others, Forest Department and WRTC shall make it its decisive impact in wildlife conservation in the country. As we all know, Vidarbha is a biodiversity hotspot, and concurrent human-wildlife conflict have become a threat to make many endangered wildlife in the region. The message of conservation through coexistence is a truly an imitation of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. I am happy that efforts are directed to highlight the importance of native species in ecosystem. However, a lot needs to be done in order to assess emerging and re-emerging diseases of wildlife in the region. As a veterinary university, MAPSU Nagpur has been in the front line or forefront in investigating the pathogens of public health importance in the wildlife. Current pandemic COVID-19 has highlighted the need of preparedness to tackle emergencies arising out of disease outbreaks. Every year, avian influenza incidences in wild migratory birds are triggering pandemic in the public health managers. And I'm happy to share that Nagpur Veterinary College Laboratory of Veterinary Public Health has been now identified by Government of India to analyze these bird flu samples from the Maharastra. Many transboundary diseases of livestock importance, such as foot and mouth disease, has a reservoir in the wild. The resulting economic sanctions on export have led to loss of trade opportunities. Considering the above situation, need for holistic approach. Holistic is one health approach. One health is one eco health approach means the human health of the animal, health of the human, health of the environment, including the health of the wildlife. Animals include the health of the wildlife. To contain the diseases at livestock wildlife human interface is need of an hour. Research in this area could provide critical to avoid a lurking pandemic like COVID-19. However, research and investigation need patronage and support. I ask the administration of Forest Department and CJD, New Delhi, to facilitate such endeavors in zoos which have capacity and capability to deliver results. Just now, Dr. Sri Kakodkarji has pointed out how to manage this wildlife research training and research institute. There are a number of ways. Because of this COVID pandemic, the importance of veterinary faculty and the side of animal health has been established. Now, this is the just starting of the disease. There are n number of more than 200 or 300 diseases which are transmitted from animal to human. So what we can do, we have to involve many agencies to patronize this, like ICMR. They are ready to sanction the project on research. ICAR, they are also ready to sponsor the project, and other agencies, and even the forensic wildlife science. Because there are a number of cases. We used to receive the samples of this forensic department to identify the species of animal. And there are laboratories now. We can establish such laboratory at our center, and we can charge the people for analyzing the sample so that we can generate the receipt. So that can be done to resolve the issue slowly. And after 10 years, I will definitely, I'm confident that this laboratory will be self-sufficient. So we have to start somewhere. So give them basic infrastructure, let them analyze the sample on chargeable basis, and then they will be self-sufficient after 10, 15 years. So that then will be no need to look after them separately. Finally, I extend my heartfelt best wishes for the 7-day program. I hope the outreach program will be a grand success with the collaborative efforts of all associated with it. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me for this program.
Thank you, sir. To commemorate the occasion, Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park, Nagpur, and its allies have organized an online photography competition. The competition was open to all and desired to capture tigers in its different moods and habitats. We now will have the virtual inauguration of the photography exhibition. It is the collection of all entries we have received for the photography competition, along with a special exhibit from the works of Shri Vinit Arora, highlighting moods and basic information on tigers. We are now sharing the screen of the exhibition, and I request Honorable Managing Director, FDCM Limited, Nagpur, Shri N. Vasudevan sir, to inaugurate the exhibition. We have a slight time lag in the inauguration. So the countdown has already begun.
It will start only when we
Just 55.
Tigers, as we all know, are one of the most charismatic species in the world, with both a cultural and ecological role in the landscapes in which they are found. Tiger once roamed the earth freely throughout Asia in the 1900s. From a population to about 1 lakh a century ago, wild number tigers hit all-time low as 3,200 in 2010. Of the 9 subspecies of tigers, 3 subspecies have already been declared extinct. The tigers in the wild signifies healthy livelihood and protects genetic diversity and the guardian of indicator of a healthy forest.
Kapoorkar have inaugurated. He is our tiger man. He is a good photographer himself.
Yes,
Would be the right person to do that. Honor.
as per the directions of Honorable Managing Director, sir, I request Honorable PCCF Wildlife and Chief Wildlife Warden Maharashtra State to inaugurate the photography exhibition.
Thank you very much, Vasudevan. I am no tiger man as such, but yes, as with everybody else, the tiger is a charismatic animal and it attracts. Any number of times you go to the forest, you would like to see a tiger. Although many times for us it is not that purpose, but a sighting of the tiger is something which is never to be missed. And therefore, photography exhibition is something focused on the tiger. Is something which is really good. So I take this opportunity to declare the photography exhibition open.
Thank you, sir. For all our viewers, you can visit gorewadaproject.com for the exhibition, and it will be open for the entire period of the Tiger Week and even thereafter. So it's a wonderful collection of pictures from participants and from the work of Shri Vineet Arora, who is a wonderful photographer. I request all to visit and enjoy the glimpses of the photographs that are available there. Photo gallery, photo gallery. Photo gallery.
Ramganga River.
You will see it later.
As I earlier said, the exhibition is open for the next 6-7 days and even thereafter. So everybody can enjoy the glimpses of the photographs that has been shared on the website. It is our honor to have Honorable Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority, New Delhi, Dr. S.P. Yadav sir. I request him to express his views and enlighten us on the occasion.
Thank you so much. And good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to extend my thanks on the behalf of CZA to the government of Maharashtra for hosting this week-long program that is focused on tigers. Respected Nitin Kakotkar sir, Vasudevan sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Paturkar, all senior officers, dignitaries, and participants from across the country. It's really good that a week-long program on tiger, with a focus on tiger, is being organized with the theme of coexistence and the people connect. This topic is very interesting. And as Kapotkar sir has explained, there are who's and who in tiger tribe who will be speaking in this occasion, in this week-long program. As you all know, that tiger is an iconic species, it's a charismatic species. And if you see, if you survey, if you talk to the foreigners, 2 T's are important for India. When they want to visit India, first is Taj Mahal and number 2 comes tiger. So that is the power of attraction of this animal. And this is the reason tiger is not only national animal of our country, but it is national animal for several other countries as well, like Bangladesh, Malaysia, and Korea. We have a long history of successful tiger conservation, and no doubt that with the hard work, sincere work, commitment of thousands of frontline staff, hundreds of officers in the country, today we are the global leader in tiger conservation. We have more than 70% tiger in our country as per 2018 estimate. But the situation is not good at international level. We have seen that population is increasing in India, Bhutan, Nepal, and Russia, but the population is going down, either going down or the population has become completely extinct in other tiger range countries. Out of 13 tiger range countries, very recently, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos PDR, they have lost all their tigers in the world. So tiger is still highly endangered, and the poaching is biggest threat. And poaching, not because there is demand of tiger body parts in our country, but demand is in some consumer countries. And that market-driven poaching is creating havoc in all tiger range countries, including India. The topic of coexistence with tiger, it's really very challenging, because today I feel that the biggest challenge before protected area managers or forest department is the human tiger conflict. And Maharashtra is facing this problem almost on everyday basis. So this topic is very, very important. Coexistence with carnivore like tiger is, to me, it appears impossible. But we must devise certain strategies to deal with this. I think this Gorewada International Zoo and Rescue Center and Research Center is playing a great role in supporting human wildlife conflict and rescue of animals, especially tigers and other carnivores. I have visited this center and I was thoroughly impressed with the work being done there. In fact, if you see, we have now 51 tiger reserves in the country covering more than 75,000 square kilometers, and all are aware that there are core areas and buffer areas, and core areas has to be inviolate. But there are more than 46,000 families are living in the core area. It is said that poverty lives in and around protected areas. In fact, large number of poor people who are dependent for their livelihood, their natural resource requirement on these pristine forests. And because of this natural resource dependency on these forests, tiger habitats, this conflict takes place. The conflict, I think, we are giving a special focus. SOPs have been devised. There is special funding assistance to deal with the situation, but still far more has to be done. There is a lack of capacity in the field. We need to be more organized to deal this kind of situation. To reduce this conflict, for voluntary village relocation from core area of tiger reserves, we have increased the package for voluntary relocation from the village from 10 lakh to 15 lakhs. I think this will help, this will motivate the people who are living in the core areas for voluntary relocation from these tiger reserves. I strongly feel that benefit of conservation must go to the local people who are in fact sacrificing their natural resources, their rights on these forests, and they must get the benefit out of tiger conservation. And this benefit should not only be substantial, but it has to be direct. So in the form of employment, in the form of ecotourism, these are very, very important aspects. I'm sure that in the week-long deliberations by different experts, all these topics will be discussed, and we must reach out with certain recommendation or conclusion that what needs to be done. Kotkar sir has informed a very good initiative of preparing a wildlife action plan at the state level. It's a really remarkable. I think this will lead an example for other states also, and this will address several issues in the state. We need a better cooperation within the state, not only within the state, but also interstate cooperation, as Maharashtra is connected through corridors with several states. The Government of India, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, and Central Zoo Authority, we are committed to support all wildlife conservation in the states, zoological parks, rescue facility, and all this kind of initiative in the states. With these words, I would like to conclude, and once again, I would like to compliment the Government of Maharashtra, the Forest Department, the Forest Development Corporation for hosting this week-long program on tiger conservation. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for all the motivation that your presence has given us. With this, we come to the end of the inaugural session. I request Shri P.B. Panchbhai, Divisional Manager, Gorewada Project, to express the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Sujit. Good morning, everyone. Respected dignitaries on the dais, Honorable Managing Director, FDCM Limited, Nagpur, Shri N. Vasudevan Sir, Honorable PCCF Wildlife Maharashtra, Shri N.H. Kapotkar Sir, Honorable Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority, Government of India, Dr. S.P. Yadav Sir, who has joined us online from New Delhi, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Maharashtra Animal Fisheries and Science University, Colonel Dr. Professor A.M. Paturkar Sir, Chief General Manager Planning, FDCM Nagpur, Shri Sanjeev Gaur Sir, General Manager FDCM Nagpur, Nagpur Region Nagpur, Shri Rishikesh Ranjan Sir, Additional Principal Chief Conservator of Forest Protection, Shri Praveen Chauhan Sir, DIG CJD, Dr. Sonali Ghosh Madam, who have joined us online, Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is an esteemed honor for Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park and Wildlife Rescue Center, Gorewada, Nagpur, to host an event focusing tiger conservation. I express my most sincere gratitude to Central Zoo Authority of India, New Delhi, for giving us this opportunity to contribute to the noble cause. I express my sincere thanks to Honorable Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority, Government of India, Dr. S.P. Yadav sir, for his presence for the inaugural ceremony. I also express my sincere thanks to Dr. Sonali Ghosh ma'am, DIG, CJDA, and the entire team of CJDA for all the help and encouragement in conceiving this program. I express my sincere thanks to Honorable PCCF Wildlife Maharashtra Shri Kakodkar sir for his valuable presence and guidance for the inaugural ceremony, despite his busy schedule. Sir, we appreciate the motivation and encouragement to our team all the time from him. Maharashtra Animal and Fishery Science University has been an important partner in all the endeavor of Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park and Wildlife Rescue Center, Gorewada. I extend my most sincere gratitude to Honorable Vice Chancellor MAPSU, Colonel Dr. Professor A.M. Paturkar sir for his presence for this inaugural session and the constant encouragement. I thank Honorable Managing Director FDCM Shri Vasudevan sir for all the encouragement and support to conduct this program. I also express my sincere thanks to Honorable Chief General Manager Planning Shri Sanjeev Gaur sir and Honorable General Manager FDCM Nagpur Shri Rishikesh Ranjan sir for all the support and guidance. I am also thankful to APCCA Protection Shri Praveen Chauhan sir who has joined this inaugural function. I cannot forget the Director Wildlife Research and Training Center Dr. Sirish Upadhyay and his team on this occasion. I also thank all my colleagues and teams who have put a lot of efforts to make this program a grand success. I am also thankful to APCCF ITP, Shri M.K. Rao sir and his whole team for providing the necessary IT facilities for the smooth conduct of this program. I am also thankful to all those who have joined online for this inaugural session. Once again, thanks to all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. With the prior permission of the chair, I declare inauguration session is over. We will be right back at 11:40 for the first webinar on conserving tigers in human-dominated landscape. Lessons learned from Indian Tarai by Shri Ramish Pandey, Director, Delhi Zoo. With this, we come to an end of the inaugural session. I thank all our participants who have joined us online. Stay tuned for the next session. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I welcome each one of you to the virtual webinar organized by Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park, Nagpur, in collaboration with WRTC Nagpur and CSERE New Delhi to celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and World Environment Day Week 2021. Today, we have with us Shri Ramish Pandey, who is a well-known face in Indian Forest Services and recognized for his work in the field of protection, conservation, and management of biodiversity and natural resources in India. He is known for the revival and restoration of Kataniya Ghat Wildlife Sanctuary and for his work in tiger protection and conservation in Pilibhit Dudhwa Kataniya Tiger Landscape. He is widely recognized both nationally and internationally for his contribution in implementation of multilateral environment agreement, especially Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wildlife, Fauna and Flora, and combating trans-border organized wildlife crime and illegal trade. He has been in the core team for strategic thinking, formulation, and implementation of a World Bank assisted 400 million US dollars technology center system program being run by the Ministry of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises, Government of India for competitiveness of the small industries. He has won numerous awards throughout, and to name few amongst them are Asia Environment Enforcement Award 2019 by United Nations Environment Programme at Bangkok, Thailand, G-Files Governance Award 2018, Clark R. Bavin Award 2010, WWF PATA Tiger Conservation Award 2001. Apart from these, he has published 50 research papers and articles in scientific journals, periodicals, and magazines. Words will fall short to count his achievements. Presently, he is serving as a director of National Zoological Park, New Delhi. We are honored to have you with us, sir. I welcome Shri Ramish Pandey for his talk on Saving Tigers in Human-Dominated Landscape, Lessons Learned from Indian Terrain. I hope you all have a good time here. Over to you, sir, for your talk.
Thank you very much. I hope that I am audible and you can see me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, I'm thankful to the organizers and Central Zoo Authority for giving me this opportunity to speak on conservation of tigers, which is a subject very close to my heart, especially when someone talks of Tarai, which has been my favorite workplace in my career, where I spent more than 6 years working in tiger areas. The topic which has been given to me is basically on conservation issues related to tigers in Tarai. And why Tarai? Why not the other landscape? This is another very relevant question. Before I go to the topic, I would take permission of the organizers to share the screen of my presentation, which I have made for making the conversation more relevant and easier. So I'll be sharing the screenshot of the presentation. I hope it is visible. Can you see the screenshot, please? Anyone can tell me so that I can know whether the screen is visible or not?
Visible, it's visible, sir.
It's visible. So the topic of today's discussion is conserving tigers in human-dominated landscape, lessons learned from Indian Tarai. You know very well that we boast of, so far as the large megafaunal species conservation in the country is concerned. We have been successfully conserving species like elephant, rhinos, and tigers. But out of all this, I personally feel the conservation of tiger is really very, very challenging. Not because of the nature of the species or the human tiger interface which we face around, but because of conservation of such magnificent carnivore in human dominated landscape. Tarai is one of such habitats which is surrounded by a lot of villages where the agricultural lands are minting money because of the cash crops like sugarcane. Therefore, a lot of conflicts or negative interfaces are being faced by the staff and officials in that area. Even then, you will be happy to know that in last couple of years, the number of tigers in that area has gone significantly high, especially in Pilibhit. You might have heard that the reserve earned the price of 2x tigers by the international agencies in recently. So the tigers numbers are increasing that area. That is how that is happening and how the officials are managing the negative interfaces. As you can see in the picture, a tiger is visible in agricultural field and people have surrounded it from all sides, and managing such negative interfaces become very, very challenging to rescue the tiger or push the tiger back. And many a times people, staffs gets beaten by the people surrounding the tigers, and it's really very challenging to protect, conserve, and avoid human tiger negative interfaces in this landscape. So I'll be coming to the next slide just to show you that how Tarai landscape is important and how it is interconnected, and how is this landscape is placed. You can see in this map, though this map is an old one, because you can see that reserves named in Nepal side has been still having the names Royal Shukla Fanta. Now there is no more royal word being used there. But if you talk of Tarai landscapes, Tarai landscape, it is basically a tract of land just in the foothills of Shivaliks, where the water level is very high and very easily accessible. Probably at 4 meter or 5 meters of depth, you can find water table, and that is why this area is called Tarai. The word Tarai has come from Tar. Tar means which is inundated, which is moist, where the moisture regime is very high, and from word Tar, the Tarai has come. And this area is in a strip just before the alluvial flood, the river floodplains of various rivers coming out of the Himalayas. And there is another tract of land between Tarai and Shivalik, not at every place, but there are certain places where a small tract of land also falls, which is called Bhabar. So these are the geographical terms, basically. The Shivalik, then Bhabar. Bhabar is a tract which is full of gravels and where the water table is very deep. It is very difficult to access the water table over there. And just after the Bhabar tract, you get the Tarai, and Tarai landscape or the Tarai geographical formation, though it is in length ranging from 800 to say 1,000 kilometers, but till it reaches to Duar and then extend into the Brahmaputra floodplain. But so far as the width is concerned, it varies from say 50 to 100 kilometers in width. But this is very, very ecologically productive landscape so far as the ecosystem is concerned, and that is the reason you can see various very significant protected areas are situated in this landscape, both in Nepal and India. Another very significant feature of this landscape is that Tarai not only falls in Indian territory, but also falls in Nepalese site. Therefore, many protected areas like say Katarnia Ghat or say Dudhwa or some of the areas of Suhelwa Wildlife Sanctuary is directly contiguous to the Nepalese side. Even Balmiki in Bihar is directly connected with the Chitwan. So this landscape has many important and significant protected areas, right from Rajaji National Park. Then comes Corbett, then comes Shukla Fata in Nepalese side, Pilibhit in Indian side. This map doesn't have the Pilibhit because it's the older one. Then comes Dudhwa. Dudhwa has two protected areas, Dudhwa National Park and Kisanpur Wildlife Sanctuary. Then comes Katarnia Ghat. Katarnia Ghat is directly connected to Bardia National Park through Khata corridor. Then comes Suhelwa. And in Bihar, the Balmiki is directly connected to Chitwan. Then comes Parsa in Nepal. You can see this area that so many national parks and sanctuaries which have almost all important megafaunal species such as tigers, leopards, rhinos, elephants, 5 kinds of deers, and many other bird species and other species with them. And this area had a very strong connectivity earlier, but now it's a fragmented area and there are serious issues of corridors, and that makes the area more challenging when we talk of human-dominated landscapes. And there is a transboundary migration of these species also, especially between Indian territory and Nepalese territories. And species like rhino, tiger, and elephants do keep coming from Nepal to Indian side and India to Nepal side. And when we talk about this international boundary, this boundary itself become a challenge because it's a porous international border, and you might have heard that the sink for demand of derivatives of tigers is in the adjoining countries, neighboring countries. Usually it goes to China through Nepal, and this border, this international porous border, becomes a great challenge in all the protected areas situated on the Indian side along the Indo-Nepal border. So another interesting thing is that where the Indian territories, the protected areas in Indian territories are situated, across the Indian territories or Indian protected areas, there is no forest. Usually the forests have been cut over there in Nepal and people have been inhabited over there. So it's like drawing a line where one side is completely inhabited with forest and wildlife, and just across the international boundary is all agricultural field and people are inhabited over there. So that makes the conditions or the situation of this area very, very precarious, very important, very, very challenging. When I talk of Tarai, especially Dodwa, I say that there are very, very few areas in country which are so challenging. They are, I name only two, which I personally feel are equally challenging or maybe more challenging, are Kaziranga and Sundarban, which have difficulty in managing the area, not because of situated in the human-dominated landscape, but because of the other factors also, like Dudwa or Pilibhit, which is situated on Indo-Nepal border. And on one side, it is Indo-Nepal border, and another side is all surrounded by villages where the sugarcane is grown throughout the years. And sugarcane is the sibling of saccharum. It's a saccharum officinalis, and inside the forest you get the saccharum munja. It's both a sibling, and tigers or leopards don't differentiate much so far as the grassland is concerned. And for them, sugarcane is a grassland, and there are sugarcane tigers which permanently lives in those areas. They give litter over there. There are population which grows over there in the sugarcane tigers don't go back to the forest area and become very challenging when the sugarcane is harvested and interfaces become negative. So this is how this area, this is how this Tarai area is situated or placed with so many protected areas, because most of the people who are listening to this talk is from the central highlands, and they might have not seen all these protected areas, especially along the Nepal border. So for them to appreciate this landscape is very, very important, and to understand that why this area has been chosen to discuss so far as the tiger conservation in human-dominated landscape is concerned. As I have said, that this area is very, very important. They are having all megafaunal species which contribute of tigers, elephants, and rhinos in particular. Many people may not be knowing that rhinos used to found in this area naturally till say 150 years back, but they got eliminated, and in 80s the rhinos were reintroduced in Dudhwa Tiger Reserve. And however, there is a place where I have worked for more than 3 years, is Katarnia Ghat, which is the part of the Dudhwa Tiger Reserve where rhinos are not reintroduced. They are naturally found, and they keep moving between Bardia and Dudhwa. Similarly, in recent past, we have seen the significant increase in the number of elephants, both in Dudhwa and Katarnia. Earlier, they used to migrate between Indian and Nepalese territory, but for last couple of years, we are saying that their stay is significantly prolonged in Indian side. Maybe because people are saying that many of the corridors and the passage of their movement have been stopped by erecting chain link fence in the Nepalese side, or maybe loss of habitat is being noticed over there by them, but their stay has significantly increased in Indian territories. So apart from carnivores, 5 types of deers. And this area, which I would like to emphasize, has a wonderful mosaic of woodland, grassland, and wetland. So why this area becomes challenging, why this area is important, because you won't find the such mosaic of woodland, wetland, and grassland in other places. In Dodwa, around more than 20% area is grasslands, and the grasslands are of two type. One is the lowland grassland and another is the highland grassland. The lowland grasslands are inundated during the rainy season. Even the inundation prolongs, and the whole area during the monsoon becomes inaccessible. It gets flooded, it gets inundated, the grasslands are wet. That makes wonderful stay for, animals, especially those love such inundated landscape. But it becomes very, very difficult for staff to enter into area because the grasses are too tall. Even elephants gets hidden in those tall grasslands, and it is full of insects, mosquitoes. The floor is wet, and you have to walk through either on the back of the elephants or on the foot. You can't take even motorcycles because the fair weather roads are inaccessible, and even 4:4 vehicle is not entering in that area. And that is situated just along the porous international border. Just imagine that how difficult it becomes to protect that area from the poachers, that to organize poachers. That's why the Tarai is very, very challenging and difficult to manage. So what approach we keep for managing this area? The approach is very clear. The first is that we cannot avoid this fragmentation or human dominated landscape. We have to live with it. So we have to accept the co-occurrence concept. We have to live with this fragmented human dominated landscape. How to co-occur is the key. Secondly, we cannot avoid saying that there is no tiger in sugarcane area. There are sugarcane tigers, and we have to protect them also. We have to protect them in such a way that those sinks doesn't get emptied by the organized poachers and they take it to the international wildlife trade market. Third, mass awareness is important. We have to continuously interact with the people. If we are not interacting with the people, we are going to be beaten. Fourth, we have to retain the population within the place. We have to work in such a manner that the population in these fragmented landscapes have to be inside the forest. They should not go outside. So we must have good grasslands, good water regime, good protection, no disturbance, so that the population is not coming out of in the sugarcane grasslands. And that is another strategy we keep in our mind. Fourth is we have to consistently build the capacity of the field formations. Why? Because most of the people are overaged or in very old age. They don't require only hardwares. They just don't require good chowkis or good weapons or good boots or good raincoat. They also require a lot of software, a lot of empathy, a lot of warmth, a lot of interactions, a lot of joint patrolling, sitting with them. And they have to be exposed to the forthcoming new technologies like camera trap, stripes, using drones and other such things. So consistent capacity building, consistent interaction with them is very, very important. Then, as I have told, the technology infusion, because we took off the stripe over there. We used a lot of a lot of technologies to protect our areas, introduce a lot of modern gadgets. This is another area which is very important when we are managing such difficult terrain. And policy instrument is also important, because I understand that the central landscape states are very proactive and progressive. But in case of Uttar Pradesh, the man-animal conflict has been added into the state list of disaster. UP was the first state. So what happens if something happens or someone is killed by the attack of a tiger or leopard? It is considered as a natural disaster under the state disaster provisions, and finance is given through the state disaster relief. Such policy instruments are extremely important when we are dealing the area which is human dominated, and to create a win-win situation. I mean, we just can't say that this area is very ecological productive. A lot of megafaunal species are there. People are not going to listen it unless we have some Tadoba-like model of ecotourism, or giving them some alternatives, some support through eco-development, or through some incentives to diversify their land use and create a win-win situation. Such areas are very, very difficult to manage. This model, because I see that a lot of field officers are sitting, like ACF level officers, or maybe some range officers would be listening, and there may be some people who have not worked in field as such. This is a very interesting model which I evolved when I was working as field director Dudwa, to tell my forest guard what is the tiger management, or say tiger conservation strategy, or may say how we are managing the our tiger reserve, and how do you manage your range, or how do you manage your beat, or as a ACF, how do you manage your subdivision. So basically, I developed a very simple way to tell that how to memorize and how to understand, how to deconstruct the tenets of conservation or management. Why I'm telling this? Because this is the takeaway. This is what I'm going to share with you, that how do you interact with your forest guard or forester or your range officer is very, very important when you are managing an area which is extremely challenged to protect and conserve. You have to bring them on the same page. You may be extremely educated. You can speak English. You know, you have read books. But the forest guard, forester, they are not so motivated, educated, or they are not having that bird's eye view which you are having. They are having their own worm's eye view. So how to bring them on the same page, and how to tell them that what exactly we are doing in this area. So what do? We say it's a fistful strategy. This is my model, which I evolved while telling them that basically it's a very easy to tell them what is the meaning of tiger conservation. So tell them, show them the palm, and the thumb is the protection. In this palm, the first vertical is protection, which is thumb. Then the second is the index finger. It is habitat management. Then the third vertical is community engagement, which you also call eco-development works and engaging with the community. Then the fourth vertical is the research and monitoring, whether you are really seeing that what is happening in your area. And the fourth is the communication and outreach, creating pamphlet, brochures, coming on the social media, telling press, a lot of things. So these are the 5 verticals which every forest officer or park manager or reserve field director should work on: protection, habitat management, community engagement, research and monitoring, and communication. This is a fist. So you have to work, or we have to work in each vertical with some strategy, analyzing and understanding the requirement of inputs in these 5 verticals. Then there are 2 more verticals, which I call our satellite vertical. They keep revolving around these 5 verticals, or 5 fingers. They are ecotourism and the human-animal conflict. Ecotourism works round the clock. Even if you are eating or sleeping or going for protection, or you are going to dart an animal, people will call that I need some reservation. So ecotourism is something which is revolving, and anytime you can get some call or some accommodation related requisition or any issue related to ecotourism. Same is the human tiger conflict or human-animal conflict. It can come at any time. So there is no time of it. There is no time frame for it. And these are the satellite vertical. I don't consider them the core vertical. The core vertical are only these 5 of the FIST: protection, habitat management, community engagement, research and monitoring, and communication. Now comes very interesting thing that you have to, or we have to, give weightage to these 5 verticals. When I was working in Dudhwa, I gave 60% weightage to protection. Because if you are doing protection, all the rest of the verticals is taken care of. This may not be situation in Central Indian landscape, because Central Indian landscapes are not that much of sensitive so far as the aggressiveness of the criminal is concerned. People are docile. If you will catch someone, no one is coming to give dharna before your house. But in North India, in Tarai area, arresting someone is also not very easy. So protection has to be given high priority. This weightage may be 50%. This may be 40%. If the area is well protected, there is no issue of the protection, then you can decrease the weightage of protection to the thumb. But in Dudhwa or in Tarai, we give 60%. It may be 70% in some of the areas, or maybe in some of the ranges, or maybe in some of the beats which are very, very sensitive. So everyone has to see that how much weightage has to be given to the protection, which is the thumb. Then how much weightage has to be given to habitat management. I gave 20% weightage to the habitat management, 10% weightage to the eco development, 5% weightage to the research and monitoring, and 5% weightage to the communication and outreach. This is the way you have to give weightage. Suppose your protection is very good, you give 30% weightage. Improve the weightage in habitat management. But if an area which is extremely sensitive, don't run behind the habitat management or eco development. No need to go to public. Public is aware whether we are protecting the area, we are doing our job properly or not. We cannot we cannot earn the confidence of people unless people around the forest area is aware that field director is walking 10 to 15 kilometers every week. Ranger Sahab is पैदल चल रहे हैं. Forest guard is not allowing any illegal entries. Unless this is done for at least a year. If we go to the villagers are not going to give us respect. We have to earn respect by doing our own job. If the protection is good, improve your community engagement, improve the weightage of the research and monitoring, improve the weightage of the habitat management, do all kinds of other works. But unless the protection is not given properly, there is no meaning of talking about the science. Because nature is so strong to revamp itself and bounce back. I have seen in Katarnia Ghat when it took 1 year to see a tiger. And when we left the area, there were more than 30 tigers. Nature takes care of bouncing back in its own style. And then satellite vertical, we have to give 50% weightage. So this is a very simple model how one can interact with the staff. Very easy to tell a forest guard or forest and ask him that how much weightage you will give. If there is a beat well within the core area of the reserve where there is no issue of the protection, give 100% weightage to the habitat management. Let's say 80% weightage. But if there is a beat which is at the fringe and very sensitive, 60%, 70%, 80% weightage has to be given to the protection. So this has to be assessed, understood, and keep changing as you evolve, as you go through, as you progress in the management of the area. Now I'll quickly go through all these 5 verticals so that you can understand what does mean by the protection. I say one word for protection. It's a closure. Closure means minimum interference in that area. No one should come, no one should go. So what we did Operation Monsoon. Created patrolling Machan, used dog squad, drones, metal detectors, came very heavily on organized wildlife criminal modules. STPF is in place, using them, putting them at the right place, removing encroachment, consistently elephant patrolling, strengthening wildlife network, having reward and punishment policy, training our staff. All these things are extremely important. What I took over there was taking off Amish tribe. It was not, it was, you know that Amish tribes was developed by WI and TCA, NTCA and WI, and there were a lot of reservations, and people were not taking it very seriously, but we took it very seriously, and it took off, and we trained our fish staff, and we started rewarding them. Whosoever is the best patroller, whosoever is the best team, every month the data is being analyzed, and a person who is in the remote area, one forest guard who doesn't even know that field director is knowing or not, reaching to them and telling them, you are the best patroller of the month. This is your reward. That gives a lot of confidence in people who want to do good work in the field. So we should believe in good work. We should encourage people who are doing good work so that the fence sitter can jump to the side of goods. So this is the strategy which is very, very important. And these are some pictures that how we institutionalize Amish tribe patrolling in Dudwa. And every night they used to send this kind of screenshot, and every night, and for more than 100 days without fail, I slept around 3:30 or 4 just after getting the feedback of the staff. And slowly and slowly the spatial coverage started increasing. You can see from the left side to the right side, all these blue lines you might be knowing. Many of the people who have worked in the tiger reserves, they know that how a spatial coverage comes in is Amish tribe, that how the people are traveling. Earlier this lesser area was covered, now people are covering more and more areas. And similarly you can see the intensity. Each grid which is of 5 and 5 into 5 kilometer is getting filled up, and from green it is becoming brown. None of the area was left where the staff is not reaching. This was a very interesting journey, I would say, and could see that how, if Amish tribe is done religiously, can give us the insight about the spatial and temporal data of patrolling. And then we can understand that when people are going, who is going, what is the time when they are not going, why the machans are important to protect the areas, whether the people are really sitting in the areas or not, what mode they are using for the patrolling. All these data can be seen in Amish tribe's data. The second vertical, which was the index point, that is the habitat management. It's a very simple: food, cover, and shelter. So we have to manage grasslands properly. Fire has to be managed extremely cautiously, and we are losing the trend of managing fire lines, cutting them well in advance, burning fire lines, using the alert system of FSI, maintaining water holes, putting them in water, changing water, installing infrared camera to see the movements of the animals. All these things are very, very important so far as the habitat management is concerned. Very simple, and this has not to be understood by the field director or the deputy director or ACF or range officer, but this has to get inculcated into the grassroots level field formations in our tiger reserves. Some of the pictures: water hole, grassland management, myself driving and harrowing the grassland, managing fire lines, and putting cameras, thermal cameras, to know that how our results are working. community engagement then comes. This is my personal opinion. Unless we have done our spade work and work in protection and habitat management, there is no point in going to the community. We can only get the true support of the community when we are genuine and we are honest to our job of protection and habitat management. Unless we have set our house right, there is no point going to the community and preaching them that the forest is for them, they should protect animals and all. These are all bullshit. People don't buy these gimmicks. I personally believe that we should be honest in our protection and habitat management work. Not to show them, not to show anyone, but to honest to the core, to oneself, that we are doing our job properly. And then if you go to the community, I have seen extreme support for coming out of the community. We have done eco-development works. We used to run tiger safety months, then leopard safety months. Why? Because there are certain times, especially in winters, when the sugar canes are getting harvested, sudden spurt in the human leopard conflict, sudden spurt in human tiger conflict will increase in the Tarai. We used to rescue one leopard per month in Katarniaga. That was the average, and putting them back into the wild. That used to be the intensity of human leopard conflict in one division. So suddenly one can see this spurt, and for that one has to run a safety month, going to the villages, telling them that what to do, what not to do, keep the light on, don't go to the open area during dusk and dawn, don't leave your kids alone, don't leave your small animals outside your cattle shed, all these things. So civil society engagement. This has to be, this community engagement has a certain degree of commitment, and it should be loud and clear, and it comes when our two verticals are taken care of. These are some of the pictures how we used to run the vehicles, which is during the tiger and leopard safety months, interacting with them. This was another interesting thing, that what happens, it is happening everywhere, that new areas are getting added into tiger reserves, either in the form of buffers or in the form of new divisions are getting added because they are part of the connectivity or the corridors, and suddenly a territorial area becomes part of the tiger reserve. But the people, we understand as a manager that this area has become part of the tiger reserve, maybe as a buffer, but people don't understand it. For them, it's the same territorial area. So for them, just telling that this has become tiger reserve is not sufficient. So the best way is to say them that it's a tiger reserve, to paint the whole chowki with the stripes of the tiger, to say that this area has become tiger reserve. This has to be so loud and clear. Then it goes into the minds of people that, okay, there has become a shift into the management strategy by the forest department, and this area is no more being treated as territorial area and has become part of the buffer of the tiger reserve. And then sometime we have to be such loud to communicate with people. We ran a school. This is a very interesting school. We used to call it Mowgli School in Katarniaga. We had a STPF chowki over there, and the guy Satyendra is sitting amongst the students, and there used to be some villages where most of the people were involved in illicit felling or illegal activities, totally dependent on the forest. So what we did, we started educating their kids, giving them tuition in the range office campus. So when we started giving free education to them, the stationaries, geometry box, sometimes food, something, and I used to go and interact with them. Kids used to go back and tell their parents not to go into the forest, and that was great goodwill. Sometimes this kind of innovative ideas do work and build up a good rapport, and also give strong communication to the community about our commitment. research and monitoring. This is the fourth vertical. We should know about the prey-predator dynamics, the movements and migration of the species, about lesser known species, and conflict animals specifically. We should know that which are the area which is conflict sensitive. We should keep these things based on data, just not by saying that this death was due to infighting. What happens? Why I personally felt in that area. Whenever there was a death due to infighting, and we used to tell people, especially press, that the death happened because of infighting, they used to look at us with a lot of suspicion, because who fought with the animal died. Do you have any evidence? So usually what happens, the field officials, they say that, okay, it might have fought with some other tiger or maybe some other animals. Our job is to try to prove that with evidence, that this was an infighting with another tiger or with another leopard or with bear or some other animal. We started working on these aspects more seriously identifying the conflict animals, identifying their sexes, identifying their weight, their size, their build, their gait. Because many times it happens that even when we eliminate animals, we are not sure whether this right animal has been eliminated or not. This looks very controversial. I'm not saying something controversial, but I'm just saying that we should be 200% sure with our research and monitoring data about the conflict animals. That helps a lot when we convince people. I'll just give you some example. Like, there was a death where a leopard died. So we said that leopard was killed by another leopard. So we could locate that another leopard. We could match the pug mark size and the pug mark structure. Also, we can locate the animals in camera trap. So after the death of an animal due to conflict, due to infighting, our job is not over. Our job starts after that, unless we prove that this prove beyond reasonable doubt that this was an infighting. Same happened with the deaths of tigers, identifying them with the stripes, understanding their movements, where the animal was located earlier, whether the animal was found in 2014 data or not, or 2010 data, what had been the area where the animal was residing that time, what had been their movement. Each and every death has to be supported with scientific evidences to prove our integrity and to prove our professionalism. That is also very important, because people must know that we are doing our job more seriously and more professionally. Similarly, tracking animals' movement, especially the elephants, if they are coming, like lone tuskers are coming, then tracking their movement using drones, putting the movement on satellite imageries, knowing the movement pattern, knowing the movement tracks, the corridors. Some of the areas we could see that the movement happened after 20 years or 30 years. So this kind of professional attitude while dealing with the movement of the animals or the conflict situation or infighting is extremely important. Now the time has changed. We just can't say that the animal came and went. We just can't say that the animal died because of the infighting. We have to be very, very professional and scientific in dealing such cases. And the communication is also important, because everyone is on Facebook, Twitter. Immediately the videos will start communicating. We have to be good in communication. Either it's audio text messages, writing papers based on our observations, distributing pamphlets in the society. And apart from that, coming up with the new way of telling about the wildlife, because most of the people, everyone who could come to the forest area or maybe spend 2 nights, become the expert in tiger conservation or protected area management. One of my friend was saying that he had been in corporate for some, say, 5-6 years, and he was in a private gathering and someone came and introduced him that meet Mr. X, he is the corporate specialist. So he said, oh, very interesting to know. I never met you. Then he asked his friend that how he's become corporate specialist. He said that he goes twice every year to corporate to Ghumne. So he said, okay, very nice. So people who go once or twice to Ghumne in Tadoba or say Melghat or to Corbett, they become expert. So the tiger conservation or the protection is every day's job. It's a 24/7. It's a putting your life at risk. It's not just going and taking some good pictures of the area, which is more beautiful than the realistic ambience or the landscape's beauty. It takes life to understand a species. It takes life to understand a landscape. We have to tell all these things to the people. Our own professionalism should be of that standard that people can get convinced of what you are saying or what we are saying. It's not just seeing an area gives the insight about the managing or the conserving area. Management and conservation of area is not just roaming around and taking good pictures of it. It is more about the science. It is more about the monitoring. It's more about the protection and habitat management initiatives. These are some of the cartoons and the news, etc., which we used to use while doing our tiger and leopard month. Similarly, the distribution of the pamphlets, mobile messages. This was an interesting initiative we started in Dudwa with the Reliance Foundation. What we used to do, that we used to collect the mobile numbers of a specific village where some conflict has started. Suppose a leopard is coming out from jungle and entering into village X. So what we will do, our forest guard will immediately go to the Gram Pradhan of that village and will note down the numbers of all the villages, because Gram Pradhan is a person who has number of each and every person, almost all Gaonwala. And we will make an Excel sheet of it and will send to the Reliance Foundation with a message. Then Reliance Foundation used to send written message and an audio call. You might have heard the audio call as during elections and other times get from many people. As soon as you will pick up the phone, there will be a call. भाइयों और बहनों, वन विभाग की तरफ से हम बोल रहे हैं, आपके गांव में एक तेंदुआ निकल रहा है और वो तेंदुआ आपके बच्चे के लिए खतरनाक हो सकता है. आप अकेले न जाए, रात को न जाए, अंधेरे में न जाए. People get startled, surprised that someone is telling them. And this message is also coming. It's a very simple and very easy way to just communicate. What is the impact of it? People don't feel that we are not connected with them. They feel that we are worried about them. And consistently, twice, thrice, this message reaches to the villages, and they are everyone is known that there is a threat, and that has resulted very well and has helped us in managing human-animal conflict. And of course, many works like solar lights and other things that also helps. I'm very possessive. I'm very sensitive, I would say, or obsessed with the topic talking about the forest staff. The time has come that now we have to equip our officials with new hardwares, new way of gadgets and things to tackle the situation, putting them in field with all sorts of logistics so that they can tackle the situation. We kept evolving ourselves with different kinds of jackets, different kinds of gears, whether this will suit or that will suit. That is also important to do, and we did it, and we earned confidence of people. Similarly, the rescue mechanism, putting the cages in right way at right place, and we were very, you will surprise that without putting live or dead bait, we used to catch leopards and release them back every month, almost every month, using aniders, foxlight, automated cages, drones, protective gears, all these things. And then, of course, ecotourism is nothing which I would say that to discuss here, because we are basically discussing the the tiger conservation and protection in human-dominated landscape. So these are the ways which can be helpful and give an insight that every area has to be assessed on the basis of this fisheries strategy and should be given weightage. And that weightage is not fixed. It can change as per one grows, and take site-specific measures, use new technologies, keep building the capacity of the staff, and can manage any difficult areas. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and listening me patiently. Now, if there is any question, you may please ask.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. I'm K. Pathan from Maharashtra.
Yes, Pathan sir.
Sir, I just want to ask you a question. Can you tell me some main steps for the civil society engagement in order to conserve?
Yes. Very good question, Pathan sir. I personally feel that there is no substitute of forest officials or forest system.
Yes, sir.
I have seen very closely. Very little is done by them, and very large advantage is taken in most of the cases. I may be sounding very weird. So we should be more sound in our knowledge. We should be more sound in our technical know-how. We should be more aware what is happening in the country, in other part, or in the other part of the globe. And we should be more committed to put forth our issues before the seniors and get the facilities acquired. Why we are getting engaged with engaging with civil society is not bad, but by just distributing a cycle or a torch or a cap or a t-shirt and putting that photograph on the social media doesn't solve the problem of the area. But the stakes become very high. So I personally feel that we should take the help of the civil society, but we should be strong enough in our commitment, in our professional knowledge, or in our technical know-how, that our position is not compromised and wrong message doesn't go into the society or into the press. And usually what happens that sometimes it appears that the civil societies are doing everything and the forest department is incapable of handling the situation. That should not happen. So we should engage them, but on our terms and conditions.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Participants, any other questions?
Ramish, sir.
Yes, please.
This is Dr. Prayag, sir.
Yes, Dr. Prayag.
Sir, this is humble submission since you're available now. So it has been a long pending demand from the veterinarian side that in spite of so many tiger reserves, we have 51. So there is no state except Madhya Pradesh where there is no permanent recruitment of vets who play a crucial role in conservation of wildlife. So what's your take on that and how you can take it forward at your level, sir? Maybe it's zoo or in the tiger reserve, vets have been used and thrown. So it doesn't go value the system, and we look up to officers like you who can find a permanent solution to this. I think my colleagues will agree on that.
It's very important point, Dr. Saab. Actually, UP, I know the case of UP. There, a proposal has already submitted to the government for having a separate cadre of veterinarian in Uttar Pradesh. I would say that the whole science or the whole practice of wildlife conservation based on scientific management is very new. Maybe started around 70s. So it is an evolving area, I would say. People are recognizing the importance of having veterinarians, especially in tiger reserves. And the tiger reserves which are not having even veterinarian on contractual basis are having veterinarian on contractual basis. I'll give the example of Pilibhit and Dudhwa, where I have been associated with. Both the tiger reserves are having veterinarian on contractual basis. Earlier, they were not on contractual basis. We used to take help of veterinarian from the zoo. But now 24/7 veterinarians are over there. Even paravets are there. So first point is that yes, this is indispensable now to keeping in view the human-animal conflict and also the sensitivity of dissemination of information in case of any injury or anything or sickness in any animal. We should have veterinarian 24/7, and most of the reserves are having. This is also acceptable, like it has happened in the Madhya Pradesh, that we must have some permanent setup of veterinarian in tiger reserves, maybe through government or maybe another way of having or hiring them. So your point is very valid and well taken up.
Okay, I think.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
So I'm Kef once again.
Kef,
Sir,
yes, Kef.
Sir, I just want to ask. Recently, there was a news that the Namibian cheetahs has been introduced to Madhya Pradesh Kono Palpo Wildlife National Park, but and we still. But is it effective to introduce the extinct animal which was extinct in 1953 instead of investing in funds like conservation of snow leopards? Is it effective?
See, introducing or reintroducing a species should go on, because we have done in case of rhinos in Dudhwa. We have done in case of repopulating tiger population in Panar, in Sariska. Reintroduction of species with few species, I don't think that there is any harm in seeing and doing it scientifically. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't take off, doesn't matter. But just perceiving the perceptible threats or criticism, if we don't proceed with the scientific approach of managing protected areas or reintroducing species, probably that won't be a proper approach. So I fully agree that all such species which are endangered or critically endangered, such as snow leopard, we should put focus over there also. But it doesn't mean that if we should not try to reintroduce a species which has become extinct from the country, and if we have a suitable habitat even for the experimental purpose. So my take is that we should go with the proposition of introducing cheetah and Kuno Palpur, as the government of India has already envisaged and given permission. And let us see that how does it go. because unless we will do it, we are not sure that what would be the result. And just thinking that it will be a wastage of money or maybe probably it won't succeed, it's a premature statement to say here. And I am of the opinion that we should try at least and see that how does it go.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, coming to Cheetah Introduction. Sir?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. I think maybe 2010, Mysore had got a pair of cheetahs. Okay. And only in the first generation, first of all, breeding cheetah with the genetic makeup they have was a tough task. So in the Mysore Zoo episode, cheetahs bred, but they start dying off. No one had a clue why they're dying off. So it took a lot of exchange from the international experts to realize that getting cheetah itself was a mistake of destroyed because they were suffering from Malaran disease. A genetic disease till then was not even known to have many vets. So without preparing a vet who will handle a species with all its disease, everything, and doing a genetic evaluation. So taking a decision, look, I am for anything new. I'm not saying it's this one. But my only humble request is, unless you have a setup who knows about cheetahs, their management, their disease, how feasible it is to introduce to a landscape, not known.
There are two different things which have put together. Managing cheetah in captivity, that to captive born, is one thing, and reintroducing a species which is wild and introducing in wild is different thing. So these are two different distinct. There are two distinct issues which we must keep in mind. The first issue which you talked of, Mysore Zoo, is related to shift of or the exchange of a species which is of different genetic constitution, captive born to a new area. That is one. And the second is taking out a wild caught, releasing into a wild is a different set of things. When we are catching an animal and shifting it to the wild areas, there hardly we will find a chance, unless the animal is really very sick and localized, to even see for medical treatment or observations. Wild is altogether a different set of thing. Captivity is altogether a different set of thing. In captivity, knowing a species, doing genetic analysis, observations, treatment, knowing about the disease is one set of thing. And in wild, we can't even immobilize an animal unless it is localized by itself. Is extremely challenging. So theoretically, the issue remains that we should know about the genetical constituents of the species of the animal when we are translocating an animal from place X to Y. But mixing these two things and weighing both the challenges on a similar weigh machine is in my view is more of theoretical in nature than practical.
So I do agree with your point, sir. My only submission to the sir is, unless we
we are running short of time.
I'll get last question. Yeah, last one.
Yes, please.
So my only humble submission to the
last question of the session.
My only humble submission to the Pandey sir is, whether it's in a captive thing or in a free ranging thing, genetics not change. If there's a inbred, there'll be inbreeding depression for sure. So leaving very inbred, even wild population in the wild, what is the viability in the future? If you don't know what is their genetic makeup, how you are going to sustain the population in the future?
I agree with your theoretical questions, but the wildlife field itself is an emerging new field. As I said, in India, the study of the wildlife ethology and the population dynamics started when Scheller came into India. Wildlife genetics and wildlife veterinary is not even in embryonic stage in the country. So if you are taking a pleading of wildlife genetics and wildlife veterinary for translocation of a species is probably too hypothetical in perceptions. Yes, there are challenges, Yes, there may be issues of inbreeding, but nature takes of things, many things, which even we are unable to justify or to understand. This is a pilot project where a species is trying to get translocated from place X to Y to see whether it survives or not. What are the challenges? If there are challenges, then we can look into the solution, but we cannot. And there is a team. I'm not expert on cheetah, number one, nor I'm directly involved in policy making of cheetah. But what I understand, with the setups in place, the Wildlife Institute of India and the people who are working on these species, they are taking care of all these aspects. And this is being taken on a pilot project. And we have to learn so many things, because even in Sariska, it took many years when the tigers started breeding. Earlier, it was being considered as a failure because Sariska was not breeding, and Panna's tiger population, where the tigers were reintroduced, were proliferating like anything. But in Sariska also, the tiger then started breeding, and now it is a sustainable population. It doesn't mean that if we are worried about the genetics of the inbred population or certain challenges which is related to the disease of a species, the animal should not be introduced. This is my take. This is my personal take, because I am not expert on cheetah.
Since we are running short of time, any other participants, if they want to put their questions, they can inbox your questions to us, and we'll forward it to Ramish Pandey, sir. Sir, I want to thank you for enlightening the participants with your fistful strategy for tiger conservation. I congratulate sir for such a fantastic talk. We have learned a great deal and are very much indebted to you that you have accepted our invite as a resource person for the event. Your narration was incredible and it was extraordinary. Our best wishes to you, sir, for all your future endeavors. And we are sending a small token of appreciation, sir, in the form of memento, and you'll be receiving it by post, sir. We have a next speaker lined up, sir. So I want to just thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity. Thank you very much.
It's all our pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next speaker. We have with us our second speaker who needs no introduction, Dr. Paragnagam, an eminent and passionate wildlife veterinarian who rose to fame through relentless work in wildlife health management. After completion of his tenure with the Remount and Veterinary Corps of the Indian Army, he joined the Wildlife Institute of India in 2002. At WII, he was responsible for developing and executing wildlife health programs for professionals, both nationally and internationally, in the area of wildlife health and animal capture. He was playing a key role in large carnivore and mega herbivore conservation in the country, and steered in the first ever tiger conservation program, Sariska Tiger Reserve in the country, with the collaboration of Rajasthan Forest Department and NTCA. Since last 10 years, he has been working towards establishing Indian gaur population in Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve along with Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh Forest Department. And beyond, that was the first ever large-scale reintroduction of mega herbivore in the country. He contributes to various ecological research projects through inputs on animal capture and radio collaring, and has worked across various landscapes. He has been instrumental in establishing chemical capture protocols for a variety of native species that has been proved effective, safe, and with predictable responses. Presently, Dr. Nigam is providing technical support in capture of free-ranging elephants in Chhattisgarh and Uttarakhand, for tigers in Maharashtra, hangwils in Jammu and Kashmir, swamp deers in Uttarakhand, besides managing wild animals in distress. He has been providing technical and advisory services to the state wildlife agencies, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change institutions on matters related to population building programs. management of wild animals in distress, XC2 management, and mortality investigations. He presently heads the Division of Wildlife Health Management and is also a member of IUCN VSD Species Survival Commission. Today, he'll enlighten us with his talk on rescue and rehabilitation of large fillets. It's a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Now, sir, I will hand over to Dr. Paragnagam, sir, for his talk. Paragnagam, sir.
Inauguration went on really well. A lot of issues discussed, and I'm really privileged to be.
Sir, your voice is not audible. Keep your speaker on, sir. So you can start your presentation, sir.
On well, and I'm
We have, I think Dr. Paragnagam, sir, is facing some internet issues. We'll be shortly addressing you back. Sir, I request you to switch off your video, sir. You can keep your speaker on and go ahead, sir. Paragnagam, sir, we have your presentation with us. You can go ahead.
okay.
Yeah.
So, how do we go about? Are you going to be putting it here, or I'm going to be sharing it here? How do you want sharing?
Sharing, sir. You can share it.
Yeah, is that okay now?
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
Okay, so I'll keep it. I don't know. I'll not do the full screen. So you all have been part of all these rescue and rehabilitation operations, and I thought just to formalize the whole aspect of rescue rehabilitation, I've just worked on specially for this presentation, just flagging on important points which are very relevant for all the wildlife professionals. So you have a lot of situations which are encountered across the system, which would involve, managing strayed animals, which come into human habitation, to animals that are trapped, and then also managing sick animal, diseased, injured animal that require support, and also as managing orphan animals. So these are just to give you some glimpses of the situations which normally a wildlife manager and a veterinarian would get in. Similarly, for the leopards, it's a similar kind of a thing wherein they get into human habitation. Sometimes you would get them, you'll have to rescue them from wells to, you have to remove them from the traps. And it's basically a similar kind of situation all across the country. So what your management initiatives would be is to take a decision very fast, and the action should be quite appropriate for the particular time and the species. You definitely require a proper understanding of the case, as well as knowledge of the directive and SOPs, which are very important for the time being. And you need to be really knowing all the SOPs very clearly. The state directives also have to be really considered, along with the directive which have been issued by the National Tiger Conservation Authority. So on a broad frame, I've just put up what actions you would require is, one is no intervention to the minimal intervention. So I'll talk about each as we go into the lecture. Safe capture and direct release, very good. Safe capture, sending the animal to transit care facility, give first aid and again rehabilitate back into the wild. Or maybe safe capture of critically injured animals, veterinary care, and keeping these animals in lifetime care facilities, which we normally term as rescue centers. And this last point, which definitely has to be thought about, is euthanasia of critically injured animals that are beyond recovery. And any of our intervention would further aggravate condition, prolong suffering, and compromise welfare. This is definitely a debatable one, but yes, we have now some directives very clearly spelled with the Animal Welfare Board of India. Project Elephant, which has come up with special euthanasia guidelines for elephants. But otherwise, for our setup, we have a lot of cases across the country where critically injured animals, which are in a compromised state, have to be maintained somehow or the other. And they are definitely, liability in a way wherein you need to really think about what you do with these animals. On a broad sense, when you talk about rescue, it's basically to free or deliver any animal or person from confinement. And that's more of an English dictionary meaning, from violence, danger, evil, to liberate from actual restraint, to remove or withdraw from state of exposure to evil, or to rescue a prisoner from the enemy. But when we talk about wildlife, it basically refers to operations that usually involve saving the life of that animal or prevention of additional injury to the animal. That is, it involves extricating wild animals from an undesired state. On a similar part, when we talk about rehabilitation, the National Wildlife Rehabilitation Association USA, they have defined wildlife rehabilitation as, which means treatment and temporary care of injured, diseased, or displaced indigenous animal, and the subsequent release of healthy animal to appropriate habitat in the wild. So the very purpose when you talk about rehabilitation is putting animals back into the natural habitat. So wildlife rehabilitation can be defined as restoring animals to the natural state, and definitely we need to be very clear. The terminologies are quite similar between rescue and rehabilitation, but definitely it makes sense when you are talking about these. The whole process of rescue rehabilitation, I've just divided into 6 points, wherein you would have just the first one is paving way. Then it would be safe capture, temporary care, putting them into lifetime care facilities. And then, if you have not putting them into captive facilities, you're also thinking about restoration of these individuals back into natural habitat. You have to identify suitable habitats and then planning up an animal release and monitoring protocols. I'll talk one by one so it will be much clearer. So this is a very interesting, way is just paving way. Don't do anything, just wait, have patience, and get things definitely happen. Many times, because this is more lucrative and adventurous field and brings too much of publicity, people would unnecessarily like to just jump into any animal. You get a call and you would like to just capture, put up in media, all this stuff. This was a small work done by the Brahmapuri Forest Division around 4 or 5 years back, wherein, you had leopard's cubs sighted below a road below a setup, and then it said, what do you do? They said, remove the cubs, or but then the manager took in a decision of saying, let's wait and watch. And they only avoided disturbance on the area, and you'll find the female coming out and then taking the cubs into system, and there was no problem. So this is a very beautiful cartoon, which speaks about, it says, so a baby human sitting outside, but I don't see the parent, it must be an orphan. So even from the wild side, they say, let's rescue it up. This perception has to go. We have a lot of cases which have wherein, minimal support, animals can survive, so you don't have to intervene too much. Very interesting work done recently in Kale, in Karur Taluka of Satara district in Maharashtra, wherein both Maharashtra Forest Department and Wildlife SOS got together to just support briefly, and then you could rehabilitate the animal back into the cubs were orphaned, they were retrieved, and then just put again properly designed strategy, and then they could really reunite the cubs with the mother. So these are things wherein we need to really say that we need to have minimal to minimal interventions. Little bit of intervention which you would do. This was an interesting work which was done in Maharashtra again, wherein a leopard falling into a well, and then just 2 bamboo poles and the animal is out. You as a manager had to only ensure that there was no disturbance. If an animal is in a particular area, it might be a territory, or it has strayed out of your territory accidentally, it will go back. So you need to ensure that these things are, unnecessarily we would like to capture, bring them into captivity, which should be avoided. So here just in Telangana, simple work, more of alternatives being used, a makeshift arrangement wherein they had got the animal out and it just went out in the human habitation. So I'm going to show you a very interesting study of Maharashtra, which we were part of. We were doing, we are still doing a big program with the Maharashtra Forest Department is studying the tigers per se, wherein we are, collaring animals to study the ranging pattern initially, and now we're working on the dispersal pattern and other associated, issues. So this was one of our tiger called Gabbar. The name is really smart, and it was really a smart, huge, strong male, and we collared it. And that time there was a lot of negativity of saying, the pictures get spoiled and why it should be collared. So it was a start when we were doing our work, and became we had to collar to see how the animal is moving through. And we got very good information of this animal within Tadobandheri Tiger Reserve. And you'll not believe then there was always a competition, intraspecific aggression, fighting, all this stuff, survival of the fittest. So this animal sustained major injuries. So we had our field director, Mr. Garad, who was that time, commanding the Tadobandheri Tiger Reserve. And there were reasons to what should we be just getting the animal out? Should we give treatment to the animal? So our basic principle was that if a species has, contributed to the ecological function and it has given substantial to the system, we don't have to intervene in every case. And here a decision taken by the manager saying, let's wait and watch. And I'm going to show you a series of pictures of this same animal without any significant intervention. Our purpose was we should only protect the animal. Beyond that, let's see how it happens. Can natural recoveries also happen? And these gave us very good insight into further management of such cases in Maharashtra, and that has been also taken care in other states now. So within a month, you will find there were wounds which had started healing. Animals know how to survive. And gradually, you'll see the animal getting into waters, and then the wound started healing. But then again, there was a media and, the tourists talking about maggot-infested wounds and all this stuff. So we definitely kept a check. The animals were behaving well, eating well. But, so we were just keeping a watch. Gradually, you'll find this animal moved out of the core area into the buffer and survived on livestock, and then came back to the system again, to the core. Again, mated with the defined or identified female and littered also. But within a year, again, he had a fighting, and you will find the situation was within a year. Again, the next side, he got into a rift. And this is how the dynamics of tiger goes on. So, you don't have to intervene everything. You have to take your calls and decisions very, very clearly, which I'll be talking about subsequently. So sometimes you don't have to intervene, things definitely take care. Another interesting example for Ranthambore Tiger Reserve, wherein the tigers T108 and 114, they had ventured just close to a road along the crop field, and they had made a Nilgai kill. So the management definitely said, first thing was just capture these animals, they'll get into human habitation, and there'll be a lot of conflict. So first we actually just remove them off. But again, the patience worked. And gradually the department was very active. They monitored the area well. The animals move back. So every animal, you need to take a call only once you're very sure that things are, how things are happening, and you need to understand the species biology and behavior to take your calls. Another interesting example, you'll find animals which are weaker. They age also. So they might not look very good, but they are active alerts. They are surviving a system. And many times happens that, with the tourism area, if you have animals which are old, you would like to extract them out. But where do you take these animals for? So you need to only see that these are protected. So here, this was on Corbett Tiger Reserve, a tigress, which was getting weaker. It was old age, and only monitored that there's no poaching done and only protection given. And then gradually animal fades off in a system. You can't be emotional in your management. You have to, it's saying, oh, this is looking very weak. Let's take it out. It is diseased. It will be a problem. When it's part of the system, you need to let system also continue. So when the animals are born, I would say they have to die and they need to be taken in right spirit. So this was, without any intervention, things happened and it survived for some time and then faded off. Second, which I spoke about, is the safe capture. You need to really plan your captures really well. We have different options for capture, but decisions to capture should be based on proper justification. You need to have a proper understanding of behavior and physical attributes of the species to be restrained. knowledge and skill of the person handling, because having novice team becomes a big confusion. Clarity of time required to carry out procedures, you need to be clear so that you choose a particular capture technique. Availability of appropriate equipments, accessories and drugs, you need to really have them in place. Emergency plans and safety. But whatever system you correct or you identify or you would like to use, you need to say that it provides minimal stress to the animal. And that is a particular technique which is providing minimal stress is the best technique, and you need to be really following. So briefly, I'll talk about the physical methods and chemical methods in 1 or 2 slides. And because many of you have been practicing this, but just to give you that we have trap cages which can be used, and they need to be designed based on the animal attributes, based on environmental attributes. The trap attributes have to be thought about, and the response time. So these are broad categories which we normally work on. So you need to have a clear understanding of it. You know, how to set up a trap, where to set, what species, how it is moving through a landscape. And again, the designing of your, trap cages, which is again very, very important, and that has to be taken care of. So I'll be talking mainly on the trap cages. So depending on for tigers and leopards, which are relevant for across the country, you would have trap cages designed differently by different people, but you need to have certain models. But there's no specific one recommendation that you have to have. People have been following the IATA guidelines to prepare the transport containers, but for trapping cage, depending on the portability, depending on strength required, everybody has used local materials and use different type of trapping techniques. So I've just put a few from Maharashtra to Haryana to Uttar Pradesh to Kashmir. A lot of people, not Kashmir, sorry, Maharashtra itself, wherein they have used different type of cages and it can be designed. But only thing when you design, you need to be sure that these are professionally done. You need to understand that you should not design a particular container based on your thinking. Think that you're an animal and accordingly, plan, because these animals can really be inflicting major injuries. You need to have proper strategies to deal with. For capturing animals in a human-dominated landscape, animals which are very shy, you have even now snares which are available, which have been effectively used on snow leopards in Mongolia, to Amur tigers, to African lions. They have been effectively used. These are, eldritch foot snares, which were primarily used for bears, but now they have been also used for these large fellets. And we need to think about using this in areas where it's very difficult to capture animals. So you have to lure animals. You can put up a trap site transmitter onto the snare so that the moment animals trapped, you get signals. So that is all. But these are quite old publications, but very relevant from 2001 to 2010. These have been easily practiced in large fellets. So definitely it can form basis. Briefly on chemical restraint, because I feel there are a few veterinarians into the group, but there are also managers and the frontline staff also as part of our today's session. So I've just made it very simple so that they understand. So we have different type of drugs which are used, from sedatives to dissociatives, and depending on, you need to be very clear to know how they act and how would you be really exploiting these drugs to have safe and predictable anesthesia in animals. So you have these drugs which are available. The procurement of drug is a big issue across the country, and I've heard in many of the sessions, and I've been repeating this again and again. For our fellets, we don't need narcotics, but for fellets, if you require drugs, you can procure from a company, get a pro forma invoice, take NOC from Ministry of Fisheries, Animals and Dairying, Government of India, and then once you get in, you get drug import license from Drug Control General of India. So these are letters which have to be written, and it can be, you can procure different drugs. We don't need narcotics. They are contraindicator fellets, so don't have to worry about narcotics. But for the other common drugs, especially the alpha-2 agonist, if you want higher concentrations, if you want different drugs across, you can definitely use them. On a broad sense, we use common mixtures called Helabrand mixture, which almost all the veterinarians have been using. We also have used medetomidine in combination with ketamine. And off late now, the BAM mixture is coming up as a good thing in captivity, which has to be tried for free ranging, but definitely it can be of good use in rescue rehabilitation, because in case an animal is already physically trapped, you can easily use these drugs and get good effects. We have tried these drug on 2 of the leopards in Rajaji Tiger Reserve, and they have really worked very well. Different companies, different equipments, you need to be very clear. Fellets have thin skin, they cannot take too much of impact. So choice of equipment would be based on the impact, the distance you want to throw a dart to, and whether it's captive or free ranging. So different variety of equipments available, which can be effectively used for remote drug delivery in case of phthalates. But remember, this is a Gazette of India extraordinary notification by the Ministry of Home Affairs, which clearly defines that if you are a central government or a state government employee or a person who's using these, you are exempted from, getting an arms license. Whereas if you're an individual or a private organization or an NGO, you need an arms license and proper clearances to procure and possess even these kind of equipments. So these Gazette of India's notifications are available on the net, and these can also be retrieved. But just say these are arms, so you have to really be taking due care. You can't be really just putting up and just leaving it as such. We have had misuse of immobilization, remote delivery systems, these projectors, by poachers also. So you have to be very particular that your possession, records, everything is maintained well. Once you've decided with your drugs and equipments, you need to be also talking about the veterinary concerns when you immobilize an animal, because the drugs which we normally give, they cause pharmacologically induced physiological changes in the body, and these are critical changes which happen in the body. You need to monitor the animal really well, and there are qualitative and quantitative assessments which can be done. Within the time frame, it's very difficult to really elaborate much on it, but mainly we would talk about the post-emergency emergencies which have to be managed, which basically include the respiratory depression, sometimes overdosage, hypothermia, dehydration, hypoglycemia, and that if you have a veterinarian in the team, they are able to handle these in a much more efficient and professional manner. Just to give you basic physiological parameters, from basic information about temperature, respiration, pulse, heart rate, oxygenation level, all that basics, which definitely should be part of your rescue system whenever you're planning, at least to know what is normal and what is abnormal is very, very important. We also would like to monitor how the condition of the animal is. So just between these two slides, you see a rosy pink mucous membrane which says the cardiac and respiratory function is good, whereas in this case it's quite blue that says, yeah, there is some compromise. There is a compromised respiratory and cardiac function. You can easily also, taking a blood sample from arterial blood and a venous blood, you can definitely see what changes can happen. 2 pulse oximeters are the things which can be definitely used while you are having a system. So just on a broad sense, when I talk about when you're capture, definitely think about physical and the chemical methods, and then you should know the procedures very well and accordingly deal with any emergency that may arise with this. I would just like to put up 2 interesting cases of Maharashtra again, wherein we have a principle of not just getting every animal into captivity. We had also been working on, depending on the gravity of situation, we have tried giving basic treatment to the animal in the wild and just monitoring the recoveries. And this was interesting work done in Tipeshwar with a very interesting tiger called Tipu or T1C2, which had a snare injury on the leg. Now, it was difficult to capture the animal, but then yes, it was photographed by one of the tourists, not a tourist properly, I would say he was enthusiast, and he shared this with the system. And then we just got the animal, we could localize the animal in a small area, and we just treated it once, proper treatment given to the animal, and just left it there in the wild. And you'll see in the lower 2 pictures, gradually the wound healing happening, and then total healing happened up, and this animal survived well. So you don't have to get every animal into captivity, that you have to remember on. Another interesting case of a clutch wire snare injury, which was again in Tipeshwar. This was which Kakolkar Sir was also referring during inaugural session, was a beautiful tiger called T1C1, also called as a walker in Tipeshwar, which had a snare injury. We captured, this was a good team for Maharashtra Forest Department, WI together. The animal was, immobilized, and then the snare cut in, and only, we initially supplemented a little bit of food and gradually let the animal survive on its own, and you'll find gradual healing happening and animal totally fit and fine. And this is the animal which went all the way to Ellora and then to Dhyan Ganga and settled established there. So this is the longest moving animal of around 3,000 kilometers. It moved through and has established. So, you need to intervene sometimes. Why I've been only telling, when you get animals into captivity, you should be very professional in handling these animals. Little bit of mishandling, the claws would go off or the canines would go off, they get injured, and then they get used to human habitation. So it's better, presence, you have to be very particular. Avoid getting animals as far as possible. Only those essentially requiring some intervention should be brought to captivity. That's my take-home message here. A very interesting work done by, again, Maharashtra Forest Department, wherein recently there was a Rajora tiger, which was, very, it was in conflict and, really targeted as a conflict animal, man-eater kind of a thing. And then it was a lot of effort went into, trying to capture. It was out in the human habitation, moving through. Very smart one. And we had two smart veterinarians, Kundan Pochalwar and Chetan Paton, who really led this along with the entire management team. And they initially tried capturing, which you see a very improvised kind of a cage they established below our road. And then subsequently, animal got into it, but broke the cage. And they, based on the learning, they again polished it. And just below a railway crossing, a pull, they had put up again a trap cage and they could capture the animal. This animal was brought to Gorewada to Wildlife Transit Rehabilitation Center and now has been shifted to Sanjay Gandhi National Park. So just say, get the animals, think about what is the future of animal going to be. So it might contribute to population, that's good enough, but just bringing animal in a lifetime care facility doesn't make much sense. It has to serve a purpose, which was important. So an interesting case, which I felt it will be worth sharing with everyone. We need to talk about the temporary care facility, which are transit centers, which have now been cropping up across the country. You need to really think about these transit centers. That means they are basically rehabilitation centers. You get the animal, give first aid, and put the animals back into the wild as fast as possible. Whereas when you talk about lifetime care facilities, which are basically rescue centers, you have to bring the animals and bring them into captivity, maintain them somehow, get resources, and maybe if it's possible, it can be used for captive or conservation breeding program, depending on whether they're endangered or threatened. That can be done. So yes, you need to have those facilities for the particular species. But the only problem is, once you have such facilities, these facilities get very fast filled up. And people start thinking that, yes, retrieval of animal from conflict, just rescue and putting them in captivity is the best idea. These animals are surviving in an area, they need to survive there. Extracting them from a particular area, you are opening up your area to other carnivore, other conspecific or the other members of the species. So you need to think about it. We have guidelines available, which should be really referred to before you think about, getting all this. If you plan to release the animal, if you release there itself, let the animal go out its own, there's not an issue. If you're also thinking of fast release, don't have to worry much. But if you have to think about, you brought the animal into a transit facility or a rescue system, and you would like to rehabilitate the animal bags, you need to have proper assessment of your habitats and before you are releasing animal into a system. So I would say that, this is again very, very important, because we have had a lot of learnings for whether to release or not release, because those learnings should form basis for your developing a release program. There have been cases in Madhya Pradesh also long back wherein a tiger which had moved out of Kana Tiger Reserve was put back into the system, and then the dominant male killed the animal. Whether, if some animal going inside and there's no prey densities, that is also an issue. So I just flag these two aspects as you need to identify suitable habitats and assessment of a survival attributes. So when you're talking about suitable habitat, these are few of the indicators. The land cover, habitat connectivity is again very, very important. Your size of your area, which is important, water availability, terrain complexity and ruggedness, if you're thinking about a population to thrive further, human disturbance, whether it's not there or not, socio-political considerations, very, very, very important. So what we had done for Maharashtra also was developing a plan, a chart, which really spoke about what are the pressures, how you would rate them, and defining of which are the areas which you can think about rehabilitating animals back into. So this is a very professional way you need to be really thinking about. It is not just taking an animal and dumping it somewhere without identification. So we don't know what's happening to the animal. For example, the way it's happening with snakes, you capture snakes across the country and just dump it somewhere in some campus or some forest. And many of them, they don't survive. So we don't know what's happening to it. So even with leopards, if you see in our country, every day you have cases of leopard rescue. we don't know much about what is the success of your rehabilitation. It's just release has been there, but we don't know. So you need to assess these. When you talk about survival attributes, definitely ranging behavior for canids, for the felids is very, very important. Presence of other individuals which have spoken, the population structures, and definitely prey densities are very, very important when you're planning a program. Talking about animal release, once you have done this, you need to have a proper assessment of fitness of the animal, and then plan a transport system wherein it should provide minimal stress to the animal, and then plan up a strategy. So I'm just talking about a little bit about the identification which you should be doing. So taking proper photographs of the animal is very, very important, especially during rescue, or if you're keeping during in your transit facility also. Proper record of information has to be maintained. You need to also think about taking biological samples, including blood, hair, scat, and that is a very important genetic source. And putting up ID marks like microchipping is very good. And if we have resources, you should definitely think about radio collaring, because that gives you a very good information of what's happening to the animals. So this was again a very interesting study done in Chandrapur in Maharashtra, wherein we had animals in we had conflicts in Chandrapur. Put up 5 cages, and then 5 animals got trapped. And then to define which animal is there, it was very difficult task. So we put up bands and collars, and animals are released, and we found one of the individual again getting back into conflict, which was again captured and brought into captivity. So you need to think about a professional handling, a scientific handling that is going to make a change in the system. Regarding our transport cages, again, especially during rescue, definitely we would use a trapping cage, which is normally used, but having a proper transport container is again important, which should be, what the purpose is, that during transit, animals don't inflict any injuries. So you need to have a fully covered system. This is for transport of tigers, but definitely you should have to have a strategy of how do you really manage for other felids also. So I've been trying, within the time, and I understand everybody's waiting for lunch, so I have tried to push up, a little fast. So main thing is that we need to have proper manpower and the physical resources to deal with rescue rehabilitation. Proper trained manpower is important. You need to have dedicated, skilled manpower, which is very, very important. And 2, physical resources, which everybody now is clear of, that has to be thought about. The major concerns, especially during rescue rehabilitation, would be how do you manage people, which Forest Department, Ramish Pandey had really elaborately spoken about the way they had developed a system in Uttar Pradesh. Gujarat is a good example of how they have really integrated people into system through Madhya Pradesh. So many of the states who have been doing very good work, and these good examples should definitely be part of system. This is one picture which I got from the media, from the net, and saying how do you manage media, which has become a big thing. Everything is breaking news, and people would like to get a bite and just see the unprofessional way of how rowdy media people are really putting in this system. So we need to think about this also. Remember, when you're dealing with wild animals, you need to be very clear that every animal which you are capturing is a potential threat. They cannot be predictable. So whenever we talk about large felids, remember, and I would say in general about wild, you should always think twice before you're intervening. They can be unpredictable. They can react in a very different manner. You need to have a proper understanding of the basic behavior and biology. A timid animal might be aggressive. Aggressive animal might look very timid. They can react very fiercely. And we have examples. And this was a very important learning from Ranthambore, where you see this was a tiger which had moved out of Ranthambore Tiger Reserve into human habitation. And hope you remember it came into Mathura refinery and all. The team of foresters going in, and they were trying to capture, but they approached the animal very fast and was not fully sedated, and it just mauled the range officer, our famous Mr. Daulat Singh, and the entire maxilla and his eye going off on one side. So, you need to be very sure when you're dealing with animal. You need to know the procedures very well and then only act on. So it's very, very important. Never take chances. For these animals, they can inflict injuries. We've had major losses also. With regularly you'll find cases or news wherein it becomes a very hilarious news saying people went for a capture and they got mauled, which is not a good thing. We need to be very professional, ethical, humane in handling any of our capture procedures. So within the time frame which was given, I'm trying to finish. I acknowledge all the National Tiger Conservation Authority, the Central Zoo Authority, and definitely Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, West Bengal Forest Department. and it has a lot of effort by a lot of team people who had really worked hard into getting us in this comfortable mode. I have also put up a few people from Maharashtra because I thought it would be really interesting to showcase how people have really worked into it to come up at a level wherein we are able to talk on science-based management. And there are a lot of people who have contributed this. I started this with very few pictures initially in my presentation, and this whole slide gets filled and filled every time when I make a presentation. So there are few who are still missing here, but these people have significantly contributed towards the veterinary, to the wildlife, especially the large fillet conservation, from the managers to senior officials, to veterinarians, to researchers, to biologists. So everybody has contributed to this whole system. So with this, I would like to just complete, and it's already 1:30. So I would like to just put up one slide, which is by Hartoum. He wrote a book on chemical capture in 1976, and it holds very true for the time being. It says, successful handling of animals or drugs captured in the wild and restrained for various purposes can ultimately be performed successfully only by those who, at least to a large extent, put the animal first, by those who are guided by a code, or by those who have an awareness of value of animal life, and by those who set their sight on welfare of the animal which they work. 30, 40 years back, this was said, and still this is so relevant. We need to be talking about scientific, ethical, humane, and professional management of whatever we do. And I would only request that this should not be just a glamorous work which has to be publicized. It's part of our work profile, and accordingly it has to be dealt with. I'm really thankful to everyone, to the organizers first and all the participants who have been there. And thank you so much for patient hearing. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer on. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, I'm Kev Khan from Maharashtra.
Yes, Kev, please carry on.
Sir, I have a question that is it the euthanasia which is used as a use of highly sedated drugs for the animals? Is it a humane thing to kill the animal by euthanization?
Okay, so I'll just share. I'll just share you again my last slide, which I thought I was expecting this question, and this is very typically just to say, euthanasia has had a lot of emotions into it. I would tell you very openly, there have been now places and zoos and rescue centers wherein if you see the animals, how they are surviving a system, they are totally in a compromised state. I've seen a leopard without limbs in a off-exhibit facility in a zoo in the country. So it is just being fed upon. Very nice. I've only seen very good presentations of veterinarians saying amputation of limb of a animal, and they're just crawling there. So this is something which I would say as a veterinarian, we need to be very sensitive about. People would not like to euthanize, but let the animal suffer for long. There's sometimes critical injuries. They are so severe, and then they have bed sores to their animals subsequently die of pain. So it's not in every case. You have to think about it very clearly. So I have just put up this, it has to be in serious casualties. We don't have so far very clear instructions on it. So there are definitely OIE guidelines very clearly. American Association of Zoo Veterinarians have very clear guidelines on euthanasia of non-domestic animal. Animal Welfare Board of India, specifically for livestock, they have had guidelines, and euthanasia guidelines of elephants are available. But this is basically for those wherein any intervention that would compromise animal welfare by prolonging pain, fear, other suffering, or sick or injured, which are unlikely to recover in order to prevent unnecessary suffering. We have had a lot of cases. I have been seeing, I'm part of some of the groups wherein they would just amputate wing of a bird and say this is a very, this is saved. Definitely, and then you say it can be used for genetic purpose or for conservation breeding program, or the ovaries and testicles can be removed. Now, this is something which, we have to really review and think about. So euthanasia, definitely, it has to come somewhere. The animals are really suffering. We don't have very clear instructions, so nobody would like to take any chances before these are, taken care of. Everybody would say, we have to put up a board. A veterinarian, if he's telling that it is beyond recovery and with all the efforts, it's only prolonging suffering, we need to think about how to put the animal to sleep. the resources which go in, we have something called a triage, wherein if you have two animals, for example, one tiger which is, maybe serious critically injured, and then you also have a macaque which is also seriously injured, you definitely give a priority to the tiger because it has a high conservation value. Why? Where are ethics then? You have to equally handle every animal. So we need to think about this. That's why I put up a big question along with the euthanasia. It needs to be practiced. For elephants, definitely they are there, but the guidelines, again, we have to simplify those. We developed it here, WII, and then put up to the Project Elephant, but we need to simplify these guidelines so that they are at least practiced and animals do not go through too much of suffering. Those small things come as so negative. All our conservation effort are taken for a ride when media reports the way sometimes the animals are kept, because we'll have to be hiding these animals. So that is only the concern, which would be very nice. It's nice to see Dr. Pavre also here, and he's a senior scientist there. So I would also request Dr. Pavre, if you have something to support or comment on, it'll be really nice. Pavre sir is here. Please, Pavre sir, if you could really also put some thought we need to think about in future to develop some strategies on that. Yeah, Pavre sir.
Yes, friends, this was a nice presentation. All you about rescue and rehabilitation. Unfortunately, in India, we don't have a proper system and a database for. We have some anecdotes. Let's gather them together, and we'll have a baseline data. What we should have. What we do is we copy from the net and compare us to the West, which are a century ahead of us, and then we blame the veterinary fraternity as a whole, where there is, of course, a bare training of 5 days in their internship and a mere one course in their syllabus of BVSC and age. Unless we have a proper training, we directly speak of Serengeti and National Park that they tranquilize the animal. Their only business is to do this. If you compare a state government veterinarian who has to look after right from the interlocking Khadanja Satyapan to ration card evaluation to voter ID and FMD vaccination, and then again brought to tranquilize the tiger, which is a Latin and Greek for a veterinarian to do. So I'm sorry, due to ill health, I cannot speak much and the time is running short. Thank you so much, Dr. Paragnagam, for giving me a chance to speak. I'm sorry if I hurt somebody by doing this. Because of dyspnea, I cannot speak much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paragnagam, sir. It was an incredible presentation.
I have one question, sir. Parag, sir.
Okay.
I have a question for Parag, sir.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Sir, always privileged to listen to you, and we always look up to you. For us, it's like a Bible. Whenever you talk, so I would request if you can circulate among the vets your presentation if in the public domain. So coming to the question, sir, and we have spoken last time regarding euthanasia. What happens is we get inspired by you and we try to implement the field. But the people in the helm of affairs, they outwardly tell the ministry to all the PCCF, then it will make some difference for the vets in the field. Without having a document from the ministry, anything we do on the big cat is going to boomerang on the vets. Because as rightly told, it's all the guidelines for the elephant, not for the big cats. Hello? Did I make some mic clear, sir?
I think we have lost the connectivity with Paragnagam, sir.
Okay.
Did
I make my question clear?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Okay. So just to say that, yes, what your point is very valid. So we developed this guidelines initially with a lot of resentment, but definitely there was a need. So we need to be working again. I'll definitely be talking to NTCA and see how we can really put up specific guidelines for this. Definitely it makes sense, and that can definitely form basis. We definitely be working on. Thank you for the suggestion, and I'll definitely be talking to NTCA and see how we can best do this. Thank you so much.
I'm having one question with Parag sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
It is saying that since last 20 years, we are seeing that we are having a lot of expertise, lot of dedicated staff, and even though the conflict is going on increasing continuously, as you have told that the three states that Gujarat, MP, and UP are doing well in capturing or translocation of habitation. So my question is, you are doing what you have told a very success stories in Maharashtra. So when WI would able to implement that dedicated and skilled, professionally skilled staff would be working in Maharashtra, because in Maharashtra a lot of conflict is increasing day by day. So what you will suggest for the Maharashtra?
So, we have been working on a document also, which Maharashtra Forest Department is chairing. Gorewada is here to talk about this whole, a plan for Maharashtra, which is it's a wildlife health plan, wherein definitely it talks about conflict and its management. So that's quite a good document, which is going to come up soon. But just on a broad sense, we need to think about the manpower when you talk about conflict is ever increasing, but then how do we really deal with? You need to be, sensitive. So definitely the system in Maharashtra is taking over now. We've had very good examples. I have put up a lot of examples of very good success stories. Now, only thing is we need to be professionally trained to deal with now. How do you put up, these operations in a manner that they are really acceptable? So my talk was basically on rescue rehabilitation, wherein if we have decided, if you would like to rescue, how do you do that? But definitely it calls for developing those capacities, enhancing capacity of the existing people into professional scientific management. Sometimes it's more in a Hindi language, they would call jugaad, which is just order to everything. We should have to stop that somewhere and see how do we have a system in place. Now, you're really fortunate with the leadership which we have now, and even previous years, the kind of support which has come up now. Everybody's recognized role of a veterinarian. You have very good system, a hospital, the Gorewada, which is coming as one of the best component in the country, and it would be a world-class kind of a facility which is coming up. You have the TTC, your transit centers, your rescue system. This is coming up, but it needs to now be integrated so that for the entire state, we have a very clear vision and a plan how to really deal with, how to report, and how do we plan future strategies. There are a lot of youngsters who are coming in, but then they need to be kept in there. They need to be motivated enough. The seniors have to be really accepting them and really getting them on board and really bringing in a whole system in place. So Maharashtra is definitely in a very positive note, I would say, because we have worked on this particular document, which is going to come up soon. Gorewada is steering that. So he'll be putting up to everyone. And I hope many of you also, many of you have worked onto that documents, especially on wildlife health. So that is really, really positive. And while I'm in conflict, that will be a very good example. Let it just wait for some time. We will have a document coming through, and it has a complete vision for future, for next, what's going to happen in another 10 to 15 years or 20 years. How do you see wildlife and those conflict and other issues? How would you handle it? So thank you, Dr. Shidani. It's been nice knowing you.
So much, sir. One of the take-home messages from today's presentation was when to intervene, because most of the time, Mother Nature takes care of the animals. Apart from enlightening us with other veterinary aspects related to rescue and rehabilitation of large fillets. So, on behalf of Balasaheb Thackeray Gorewada International Zoological Park and Central Zoo Authority and WRTC, I take this opportunity to thank Paragnagam for the wonderful talk. You have shared abundant knowledge to the participants, which would benefit them for their future career and present academics. It was a pleasure to have you with us, sir. I thank each and every participants who have actively participated in this webinar and making this a successful one. So as a token of appreciation, we would be sending a memento to you by post. And I would also like to brief you all about the tomorrow's schedule. We'll be having with us two leading eminent speakers, Dr. Shirish Upadhyay, he's a director from WRTC, and Dr. Samrat Mondal, scientist at WII. Please join us tomorrow for tomorrow's session at 10 a.m. And I hope you would have learned and enjoyed this presentation. So this concludes the webinar. Thank you.
Display.